Hey Froggy friends, Kirostyle here, welcome back to Umineko When They Cry, Episode 7, Requiem of the Golden Witch. Thank you so much for joining me here on stream. Hey CB, welcome, congratulations on being first. Kieran, good to see you, thank you so much for coming by, really appreciate it. Hey Hakaze, hey Psycho Reaper, good to see you. Key, thank you so much for coming by. Hey Lord Depper, thank you so much for coming to the stream. So we are here at the end of Episode 7, so last time we finished the main section of Episode 7, Will solved all of Claire's mysteries and finally put her to rest. At the same time, Claire also wished Leon happiness because Leon is basically a representation of Claire's hopes. So don't forget that Leon only exists in like one fragment out of like, what was it, like 200,000 or so or more? So his existence, or their existence I should say, is like a miracle for Claire. So we left on a happy note, everything was great, we celebrated, we thanked Bern Castell for giving us this opportunity to finally give Beatrice her funeral, and we solved all the mysteries. Everything's good now, right? So now it's time to do the tea party. So the tea party, again, in Umineko, at the end of every episode, there is a tea party, and the tea party is kind of like an epilogue, but it's not optional, it's actually part of the episode. So in episode 7, the epilogue is quite long, or the tea party is quite long, offset by the fact that the main episode of episode 7 was short, because we finished it in only 4 streams. We should be able to finish the tea party in 1 stream, but it is a much longer tea party than the other ones we've seen before. But the total length of the whole episode is still comparable to all the other episodes. Feeling better? Yes! I mean, I've been feeling great since the surgery. Since I came back to streaming, I've been feeling great. My vision is still not 100% from my computer screen, but it's still good enough for streaming purposes and stuff. So I am feeling very good. And also, I'm looking forward to this because I know the tea party of episode 7 is very good. If you've been following along with the plot, you don't wanna miss out. Okay, well, let's get going. When I came to, all was silent. The room was dimly lit, and yet it was massive. Where on earth is this? I was sitting in what seemed to be a very short sofa. It was very constricting, and looked like there were several more of them off to each side of me. Once I noticed that, I realized I was in a theater. Where on earth am I? I don't know how long I've been here. And more importantly, I don't know where this is. Beatrice's funeral ended. Everyone went back to the mansion, and after that my memory gets fuzzy, and I can't recall anything else. Then I was surprised to notice the presence of another person. Apparently I wasn't the only one sitting in the audience seating of this vast theater. The sound had come from a seat to the side of mine. When I looked, I saw a girl sitting several seats off to my left. It was a face I had never seen before. Who is she? She looked like a high schooler or a college student, about the same age I was. Ugh. She groaned. Apparently she had just woken up. I didn't want to scare her, so I decided to introduce myself first. Hello? Huh? Apparently she was equally surprised to find someone other than herself here. She jumped when she heard my greeting. Who the hell are you? I feel the same way. It seems that neither of us is here of our own accord. Hey, Dittanel! Welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for stopping by today. Is that the one-winged eagle crest? Huh? Do you recognize this crest? She looked suspiciously at the one-winged crest emblazoned on my collar. Her stare, which was unmoving but not openly hostile, wasn't exactly pleasant for me. Allow me to introduce myself first. I am Ushimiya Leon. Ushimiya, huh? What? Leon. Written as Leon, but pronounced Leon. Pretty strange name, don't you think? No stranger than mine. I'll have to apologize. I don't know who you are. That's hardly surprising, since I don't know you either. That's not what I mean. Who are you? There's no one like you in the Ushimiya family. And why are you so sure? Do you have something to do with my family? I'm a member of the Ushimiya family. But that's... She showed me her left sleeve and the crest of the one-winged eagle emblazoned upon it. I regret having to ask the same question, but who are you? I've never seen you in the Ushimiya family. First they tear me into little bits, then they make me read. What's next? Which witch am I supposed to be entertaining this time? She spat out those words that seemed to be complaining about something. Ange. I'm Ushimiya Ange. Rudolph and Kyrie's daughter. What? Ange-chan? But you're supposed to be 6 years old. I was 6 during the year of the final family conference on Rokonjima. Now I get it. So you're a person from the year 1986. I'm 18 years old, and I'm from the year 1998. In other words, you're the Ange-chan of 12 years in the future. I'm glad you believe it, but unfortunately I don't have a clue who you are. Who are you? Who are your parents? My father's Kraus. Natsui is my mother. That would make you Jessica One-chan. Jessica is my little sister. What's going on? Wasn't Jessica One-chan an only child? By this point, I was starting to figure out the situation this Ange had come from. She's probably from the world where I awakened as a witch, the world where Leon doesn't exist. It will be a bit difficult to explain, but think of it this way. In a world slightly different from the one you know, I am also a member of the Ushimiya family. In your world, a different fate leads me to walk a different path through life, so I do not live as an Ushimiya family member. Are you... a witch? Hey Ash, welcome to the stream! Thank you so much for stopping by, good to see you. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm just an ordinary human. What I just told you is something I heard from the witch called Burncastel-san. Burncastel? The one with the long blue hair and the gloomy face? Yes. That probably fits her, I think. In other words, I've been forced to play along with another witch's farce. Just where is this place? I only woke up a second ago myself. I'm wondering the same thing. Looks like a theater. Are we supposed to watch a play or something? I'm really not in the mood now. Let's look for an exit. You haven't noticed yet? Look. Huh? Ah, these are... I finally noticed. Both of my wrists and ankles had chains attached to them. As long as I sat here, I had enough slack I could move about a little, but it looked like there wouldn't be nearly enough for me to get out of this place. When did... Who'd do something like this? Once a witch has made you her piece, you'll be their plaything forever. There's no way to escape. Ange crossed her legs, making the chains clank together. She realized that no amount of struggling could have broken those chains. Getting panicky wouldn't accomplish anything. She must have had nerves of steel. What do you mean, a witch's piece? It's like being their slave. I made a deal once. I said I wanted to see my family, to bring them back from that day. In exchange for making that a possibility, that witch turned me into a witch's piece. At least the witch kept her promise. I was able to see Oni-chan again. You mean Badler-kun? Well, I wasn't even able to tell him who I was. In exchange for that short bit of time, I'm now trapped inside the witch's toy box for all eternity. Looks like you are too. Did you make some sort of contract? Nothing of the sort. Did you ever ask a witch to grant a wish for you? Never. She taught me what a miracle my existence is. That's all. Either way, neither of us is getting out of here. Okay, witches, what kind of show do you have for us this time? Have we moved from reading aloud to theater going? Am I supposed to watch someone else read aloud this time or what? If that's it, then start it up already. I'm bored enough as it is. And she yelled this to the pitch-black stage. Her voice reverberated throughout the theater, but no one gave an answer. No, someone did. And that was also a voice that rang out across the theater. However, that voice sounded theatrical, as though someone was announcing the start of a play. What happened on that day, you ask? I'm not telling. If only you just give up and die. Whose voice was that? That old hag. It was Aunt Ava's voice. What does she mean by what happened on that day? She's talking about the 4th and 5th of October in the year 1986, the day of the Finally Family Conference on Rokonjima. In other words, today. Today is October 4th, 1986. As a prelude to the family conference, Beatrice's funeral was held. That's a surprise. So you've come here from October 4th, 1986. Tell me, what happened during those 2 days? The answer she seeks is inside the cat box. All I can tell her about is my close call with a sad life. However, I doubt that explanation will satisfy her. Then a pillar of bright light pierced the stage. There stood a white shadow. That white dress was obviously Claire's. Of course, Ange didn't recognize her. She looked suspicious, apparently wondering who in the world this was. However, even I felt as though something was wrong. Didn't she settle all her regrets in that funeral a short while ago, being sent off into the next world? She stood all alone in the narrow beam of light in the center of the stage, and the expression on her face was lifeless. The light began to grow brighter and brighter. Hey, Blue Moss, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. I see you guys are trying to think of what would make a good Umineko drinking game, huh? Take a shot every time someone makes a meme evil face. Take a shot every time a goat enters the shot. Take a shot every time you hear the laugh sound. Take a shot, hey! Oh, thanks for the frogs. Take a shot every time witches are mentioned. Take a shot every time Maria says ooh. Yeah, I think you're gonna take a shot every time someone yells Beatrice. Yeah, you guys are gonna get drunk pretty fast. Thanks for the chaos, CB. It shone more and more fiercely on her until it became blinding just to look at her. The world was enveloped by a light so bright we couldn't open our eyes, surrounded by a sound like wind or television static, and our minds began to go blank. Oh, they're blooming wonderfully again this year. It must be a pain to take care of all these. Pretty easy for us though, just looking at them. I agree. We've got to thank the people who take care of them for us. But it is a bit lacking in grace. I prefer the way it used to be before Nissan decided to pile so much on. The old look did have its own charm, didn't it? I love roses. I'd like them even more if they didn't have thorns. Whoa, this rose garden really takes me back. I'd totally forgotten about these past 6 years. I guess it really has been that long. Both you and this garden have changed so much. Let me introduce you. This is Kanen-kun, one of our servants. This is the first time you met Battler, right? Pleased to meet you. You can just call me Battler. Nice to meet you. Shannon's here too today. Remember we used to play together? Ah, Shannon-chan. I've totally forgotten. That really takes me back. How's she been doing? She's grown more and more beautiful these past 6 years. You should say hi to her later on. Shannon and George and Nichan are really good friends. Maria, shh. That's a secret. If you would, everyone, allow me to guide you to the guest house. After enjoying the lovely welcome provided by the roses, the relatives followed Goda in the direction of the guest house. October 4th, 1986. Rokujima. In a world without Leon. On the day of the Ushimiya family conference. Maria read a mysterious letter aloud after dinner, just as she had been told to. The writer of the letter claimed to be the Golden Witch Beatrice, and challenged the family. Try and solve the riddle of the epitaph. Otherwise, I will take everything. It was Beatrice's announcement of the game's start, the same as the usual games. Had an unknown person appeared related to the problem of the inheritance's distribution? Where was the 20 billion yen worth of gold hidden? What was the purpose of this letter? For what goal had it been written? Who on earth is this Beatrice? It was the usual dinner on October 4th, where several bits of suspicion and paranoia intertwined. George-kun, I'm sorry, but could you go to the guest house with the others? My apologies. Shannon, take the children to the guest house. We will move straight on to the family conference. Yes, as you wish. Beatrice the Golden Witch. What a fascinating letter you sent us. She's telling us to solve the epitaph? Ridiculous. That gold belongs to us. Why would we ever give it up to some outsider? If we could just find that gold, we'd all be happy. No one would have to lose anything. Let's go, everyone. They'll be having an adult conversation from here on out. Sheesh. Sounds like it's gonna get complicated. Come on, Maria. Let's go. Ito's ceremony has begun. Okay, everyone. I shall guide you to the guest house. What's all this about? Probably a replay of one of the old games, or else an entirely new game. In all the games, October 4th happens in pretty much the same way. A new game? You mean a tale that hasn't appeared in any of the fragments so far? There's no way they go to the trouble of chaining us down if they just want to show us a game we already know. It's probably a new game. That means there should be a game master. Who is it? That witch? Burn Castell? I can't imagine so. Claire should have vanished already. There should be no need to spin up a new tale. Bito's game board was hijacked by those evil witches long ago. Even Bito's nothing more than a piece in their games. Just who's behind this? And what are they after? What do they want to show us? Before this tale began, Claire definitely appeared on that stage. She's the teller of the tale of Beatrice's game. Beatrice, the me from a world of a different fate. However, didn't she entrust everything to Will, who solved all the riddles? There should be no need for her to make new riddles. In that case, is Burn Castell using this tale to test me? Along with Will, I have at least touched the deepest depths of this tale, and understood the culprit's heart. So even if an entirely new tale presents itself, I should be able to see through the riddles. Is that what my role is? Is my role to teach Ange about the truth of this tale? Do you know? Do you know the truth of this tale? Sorry. Do you know? Do you know the truth of this tale? I have several theories. Still, none of those can give a conclusive answer. The truth is always inside the cat box. I can't say anything for sure. In this world, Ange is absent on this day, so it's only natural she doesn't know what happened. However, at the very least, I do know who the culprit is, and what they were trying to do on this day. I think I finally understood my role in this. What do you mean? Apparently you're here as a theater goer, and I'm here as a commentator. Then as a commentator, what exactly is it you're going to explain for me? After all, I know who's behind the crime that's about to occur. What did you say? Thinking about it straightforwardly, the only explanation I see is someone's trying to make us solve the epitaph, hoping to then snatch the gold for themselves. I agree. If they already solved it, they could just take it. There'd be no need to challenge us to solve the riddle. You're watching Kiro, watching Ange, and Leon watching the family conference. It's a prank by one of the servants. They must be hoping to pick up the scraps in the celebration if the gold is found. Can't imagine any of our servants would do such a thing. Or maybe one of us sent a letter pretending to be a servant. That's it, you're the most suspicious one. You schooled Maria-chan on her part and made her read the letter, didn't you? I wouldn't do that. Give it a rest, Ava. We can't just jump to conclusions. Isn't this the time for us all to stick together? That's right. The aim of this strange letter is probably to disrupt our unity. The more we let it affect us, the more things will go the way of this Beatrice who sent it. Kiryu-san's right. Wouldn't it be best to simply ignore a letter like that from the start? That is what I've been saying this whole time. This sort of prank is not worth considering. Yes, that's it exactly. If a couple of improbable claims for damages gets you flustered, you'll never be able to sell anything. My husband's right. This is a child's prank. Take it seriously, it's just a waste of time. If someone really wants to shake up the inheritance issue, they come forward boldly instead of using something this roundabout. You got it right there. Someone probably wants to make us think it's another person and trying to make demands about the inheritance, when the real goal is just to pick up the scraps. I wonder if they'll ask for some hush money in exchange for staying out of the inheritance issue. If that were the case, they should have written it into the letter. And the letter is just a challenge, telling us to try solving the epitaph or else hand over everything. The culprit is trying to make us solve the epitaph's riddle. Nothing more, nothing less. So it's simple. If we worry about this letter, we lose. Indeed, I agree. After that big mysterious show, like something out of a mystery novel, we've all gotten a bit too wrapped up in this. It seems we're all taking this too seriously. But who did it? Such an aggravating thing to do. If it wasn't a servant, then one of us must have written it. I'm not naming names, of course. Stop it. I really know nothing about this. Settle down. Anyway, what this letter says does make a bit of sense. All of us need money, and if possible, we need it right away. No one here has any objections to that, right? Of course not. Whether it's money or love, you can never have too much. We don't know when Father's inheritance will come to us. However, the goal of this epitaph is different. If we find it, we can just split it then and there. In a sense, it's even closer to us now than the inheritance is. Assuming we can solve the epitaph. Everyone here has tried solving it on their own, yes? Kiryu asked the room at large, and everyone wordlessly nodded back. Here we have 4 people who have inherited the blood of the one who made that riddle, and each has tried solving it on their own. That doesn't sound very efficient, does it? True. We've all been greedy and tried to go it alone. However, we've already reached a decision of how we'll split the gold up if it's found. and about acknowledging Aniki as a successor. Though he demanded quite a lot in exchange. I wonder if we can solve that epitaph if we pool our efforts and work together. 2 heads are better than 1, and here we have 7. Today we reached a general agreement about the inheritance problem. Why not take a shot at the epitaph for a bit of fun on the side? Nice idea! Let's give it a try and call it a break. Ridiculous. Of course there's no hidden gold. Take it easy. Just think of it as a game. Let's have Goda-san bring us something cool to drink. We could take a break and all play with riddles as a big, happy bunch of siblings for once. Well, the night is long. It would at least be more productive than pointless inquiries into father's health. I'll ring up Goda-san. He can bring us something. Let's have tea and sweets. Oh, and a map of Taiwan. Two shadows could be seen in the Rose Garden Arbor. It was George and Shannon's secret meeting. I want you to take this ring. George-sama. I swear to love you all my life. Not just now while we're young. I swear to love you and keep you happy until we get old and go to our graves. And are there any lies or exaggerations in your words? No, not one. I'm confident in my resolve to love you and build a happy household together with you. What would this happy household be like? Well, it would be full of happiness. With a house with a car and a yard, and 1 dog. The yard will have a vegetable garden. The kids will run around, we'll smile down on them from the balcony. That's what a typical future Sunday will look like. That would be wonderful. What? Those 2 are going out? Shh! Why are you so damn loud? Maria would wake up. I see. So that's how it is. Now that you mention it, they seem to have a pretty good mood going on there. That's right, we're about the age where you fall in love. We've changed a lot in the last 6 years. George Nissan used to be a bit unreliable, but he isn't anymore. That's what I thought. George Aniki's got that air of dignity thing going. Still, Shannon-chan and George Aniki. That's a bit unexpected. They played together often enough 6 years ago, but I didn't think they were that close. Well, 6 years is a long time. These 6 years have been huge for all of us. Yep. Lots happened to me these 6 years. And to be honest, I've forgotten almost everything about Rokonjima. And I've forgotten almost everything about you, too. Now that really hurts. Talking together like this, it felt as though we'd been teleported 6 years into the past. 6 long years. So long that I forgot almost everything. Yet it's coming back to me bit by bit. Shannon-chan. 6 years ago you were part of our group. We played together a lot, didn't we? Back then I think I might have liked Shannon-chan. That was the age where we were all overly self-conscious and in love with love. Yeah, you think, Battler? Bittersweet memories of jokes involving melodramatic, flippant words. That takes me back. I think I remember saying all kinds of stuff that I'd be way too embarrassed to say now. Ugh, just remembering it's making my face go red. Shannon might be a bit scatterbrained, but her memory's incredible. Guess I'll just have to ask her all about your dark, embarrassing history. Quit it. That was 6 years ago. The statute of limitations has gotta be up. Right? The statute of limitations has gotta be up, right? I see. So Shannon-chan's going out with George Aniki. What am I thinking? Could this be jealousy? Hey Lace, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. I didn't really think about it now, but that thing Shannon-chan and I had back then was probably my first love. Well, it's not like I have any right to be jealous after forgetting the whole thing until we met again. Everyone knows that Dad's hometown was Taisho in Taiwan. He still chews areca nuts from time to time in memory of that place. Apparently he got hooked on that instead of smoking when he was young. Yeah, thanks, Lace. Yeah, I'm doing better now. There must be several rivers there with sweetfish swimming in them. It has several mountain streams that are famous sweetfish fishing spots. Anyway, you could probably find sweetfish living anywhere the water was clean. We're completely stuck. Maybe it was just some nearby creek Father played in as a kid. He said sweetfish, maybe we're looking for something more like carp. Or it could be some sort of metaphor. The river isn't necessarily a river with water flowing through it. What do you mean by that? Well now, who knows? Kiri has a point there. Isn't it a bit too early to be sure that Taiwan is his homeland or that Sweetfish River is a river with water flowing down it? If we look at it this way, we're just stuck again. The more you think about this riddle, the harder it gets. That's it. This is just a riddle. Kiri-san's right. We need to be flexible in our thinking. If we're looking for a river near Taisho, that would have to be Danshui River. Are you even listening? We just said that it might not be the kind of river with water flowing down it. Is there any proof this river is a Sweetfish River? You're right, I'm sorry. Well, it probably did have sweetfish in it. After all, Danshui does mean freshwater. Makes sense a freshwater fish like sweetfish would be swimming in it. Sweetfish are freshwater fish, so a Sweetfish River would be a freshwater river. Is that how we get Danshui River? Ah, quite the word game. Now that's an interesting theory. Let's advance our reasoning a bit further. As you travel down the river, you will see a village. What's the name of the town at the mouth of Danshui River? It says Danshui here. I went sightseeing in Danshui. It was a calm and gentle harbor town. Beautiful sunsets. Did you find the shore the two will tell you of? Not really. It doesn't ring any bells. Also, it's really hard to tell who's talking when there's no portraits on the screen. I guess the beloved hometown wasn't in Taiwan. It might have been Odawara after all. If we can't discount any possibilities, then we won't get anywhere. We can't even get past the first line of the epitaph. Quiet, you're distracting me. It has to be Taiwan. Father would describe any other place as beloved. That is one thing we can agree upon. To this very day, Taiwan is the homeland of Father's heart. It's probably best if we don't spend too much time on the first line. I'm going to take a look at the others. Just a quick peek, starting at the first twilight. Me too. I'll leave the Sweetfish River to you, Anaki, and I got a go at the second half. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. How mysterious. I've got it! Ava suddenly muttered. All the others spun around to look at her. Ava was flipping through the pages about Taiwan with incredible force, then found the page she was looking for, and slammed the book open so hard it almost tore. This whole time, the book had been open to the page with place names. As far as the overall mass of information went, this seemed the most useful page to start from. However, the page Ava opened to was very limited in the scope of its information. It was a map of railway lines. As you travel down the river, there's a village. A village. Huh? There it is, the village! What are you talking about, Ava? Explain yourself. Quiet! There's a shore too, and a mouth! I'm not sure what it means by the two, but there definitely is a village and a shore and a mouth. This has to be it. This is definitely the village where the key to the gold sleeps. Calm down! Explain it so we can understand too! Danshui Line. I see. So the Sweetfish River was actually a railroad called the Danshui Line. Well, I doubt there are any sweetfish swimming there. Look! If we follow the Danshui Line there's a station that used to be known as Kirigan. Look at the characters it's written in. There's a village, a mouth, and a shore. She's right! There's a village, mouth, and a shore. As you travel down the river, you'll see a village. True, that's the only station on the Danshui Line that has the character for village in its name. I see, it's like a code pointing towards the station's name. This has to be it, there's no doubt. We just need to look a bit further, we'll definitely find out what the two who speak means. Look! This is it, this is it! The region around the station has the same name, except with a mouth in the second character. That makes a total of 2 mouths in Kirigan. Are those the two who speak? Incredible, Nesan. This has to be it. Does this mean the key is hidden somewhere in the town of Kirigan? I wonder. The whole riddle so far has been a word game. If so, isn't it likely that the sleeping key is also a word game? I agree. On the first Twilight, the key selects 6 sacrifices, right? So it's hard to imagine it's actually something key-shaped. Whoa, this is getting damn interesting. Offer up the 6 chosen by the key. Let's think of a key that's somehow related to this, and let's break down this name, Kirigan. I'm absolutely sure this is a word game. It has to be. Think, everyone. That's interesting. This rain would get me down if I were alone. It feels nice and cool when you're by my side. It's about time for us to head back. I'm keeping Canon-kun waiting. You're right. And I probably kept Jessica-chan and Balor-kun waiting. It brings back good memories. Remember when the 4 of us used to play together? It was a lot of fun back then too. To me, it's a lot more fun now, because I get you all to myself. Oh, George-sama. They laughed at George's melodramatic line. However, George's laugh seemed just slightly forced. George-sama. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I guess I still have a bit of an inferiority complex when it comes to Balor-kun. An inferiority complex? Like Uncle Rudolph, he's lively, interesting, and just full of energy. He's much more attractive than I am. I can tell just how much he outshines me when we're together. That's not true. You're very accomplished and attractive. You aren't worse than Balor-sama in any way. Really? Yes, really. The truth is, when I first heard that Balor-kun would be coming back this year, I wasn't happy about it. Why not? 6 years ago, Balor-kun was the one who was really close to you. I wanted to get closer to you, but I just couldn't manage to get between the two of you. You two just look so good together, I could do nothing but watch on longingly. Is that how it was? Wasn't it just Balor-sama making fun of me one-sidedly? Of course, you looked incredibly good together. There's no doubt about that. I was sure you two were going out. That never happened. You're overthinking it. Also, I was overthinking it. I really am pathetic. I was afraid that when I handed you over this ring today, you'd refuse. Why is that? Why should I refuse your ring, George-san? Because Balor-kun came back. I was afraid you might like Balor-kun even now. And that now that he's here, you wouldn't have any use for me. George-san, please look at this. You see this silver glint on my ring finger? What do you think that is? You're right. Sorry. What's got me so shaken, I wonder? I'm probably still jealous of him, now that he's gotten even cooler these past 6 years. How pathetic. No, it's okay. Those feelings are a sign your love for me is so strong, you don't want to give me up to anyone. If you're worried about my feelings switching to Balor-sama, just love me all the stronger so such a thing would be unthinkable. Love me so much I don't have time to think about other men. I'm scared too. I'm sure you'll meet many women in the future who are much more attractive than me. Or you might tire of me when I don't match up to your expectations. It scares me to think that I might not be able to grasp hold of your feelings for the rest of my life. There's no need for you to be scared of that. I swear to love you all my life. But even though I swore the same thing, you're having trouble believing it, just because Balor-sama came back. Shannon giggled. George finally realized his own lack of confidence had hurt her. I've fallen for a wonderful man named Ushimiya George-san. And this is a man who has sworn to love me all his life, and who has given me a ring as a sign of his oath. With this ring here on my ring finger, I give an honest confession. Sure. Yes, as you said, I did like Battler-sama 6 years ago. I think I probably liked him more than you. However, that was 6 years ago. Now things are different. In these 6 years I've sorted out my feelings for Battler-sama, cut myself off from them along with the memories of the past. Now, I exist only to love you. Shannon spoke clearly and strongly. George gave a single uncertain laugh. It was probably the same sort of laugh that George of 6 years ago had made. Then he stretched resolutely and hugged Shannon without saying a word. In that moment he said goodbye to the person he had been 6 years ago. It's interesting how we interpret these conversations now knowing the truth of the past. Because they've mentioned a couple times in passing before that, but it was just mentioned in passing. We didn't know how deep that was back then. I've got the ladder. Here we go. Quadrillion. This is the only place you'll find that number written on this island. 1/10 of 10 quadrillion. How suspicious. If our idea is right, there should be some sort of device embedded in that relief. We just need to check. Who's going up? I'll go. Hold that ladder down, okay? Be careful. It is fairly high up. Rudolph climbed up the propped-up ladder, step by step as the rain poured down on him. Look at the queue. See anything? Some sort of device? Ladder's a bit shaky. Oh boy. What is it? Did something happen? Huh. Bingo. Take a look at this. Rudolph tossed the cue down. It hit Kraus on the shoulder and landed in a puddle. This is the key. What does it mean? Rudolphkin, don't tell me you could take out the other letters too. Yeah, it looks like it. Guess our crazy theories weren't far off after all. What's the next letter to take out? I. And then L. Following her instructions, Rudolph removed the 6 letters of the first twilight. Now they've gotten this far, nothing stood in the way of them solving the riddle. By trial and error, they finally reached the final stage. It says to gouge starting from the head, which must mean going from left to right. Rudolph-san, starting from the left, turn the keys before taking them out. Got it. Now we've massacred all the letters. We reached the 9th twilight and none are left alive. So? Did something happen? It felt like something clicked, but nothing changed. Did a hidden door open up somewhere? Hey! Look at that! It moved, I'm sure it did. Huh? Everyone look! The lion statue's facing the other way. What is going on? Is there some secret inside the lion statue? That's not it. It's probably telling us to look where the lion's pointing. See? Look that way. The lion's facing a different way too. What does it mean? It's guiding us, stupid. We have to go in the direction the lion's face. Ava dashed forward. The others all chased after her. The gold was right in front of them. Now this is a surprise. Who would have thought a hidden stairway like this existed? It makes sense now. Father didn't like people going near the chapel. I wonder how long that device has been there. Judging by the feel of this underground passage, probably for quite a long time. I imagine it was built at nearly the same time as the mansion itself. The riddle of the epitaph was probably also planned many decades ago. Well, this is Dad we're talking about. I try not to let the things he does surprise me, but this... Just how far does the stairway go? Hey, maybe that old rumor was true. You know, the story about him having a mistress in the hidden mansion somewhere in the forest. I see. It's likely this underground passage goes all the way there. I wonder if it connects to the mansion from that day. I think we found the goal. Look at that filthy door. Something's written on it. Ooh, bingo. Something was written on the door in red paint. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain to the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. Does it open? It does. Ready? I'm going to open it. So we finally reached the gold. We can only hope that such a sweet deal is really true. Let's open it, Ine-san. Right. I'm opening it. Heavy door opens slowly. Then the gold-filled underground VIP room showed itself. They only had an instant to admire its splendid furnishings. As soon as the mountain of gold next to the canopy bed came into sight, they all froze, stunned. After a second, the stunned silence faded and was replaced by cries of astonishment and wild joy. Incredible! I can't believe it! It's 20 billion yen in gold! It really does exist! What a shining mountain! It almost blinds the eyes! We did it! We did it! We win this game! You mustn't touch it without permission. This is Father's gold. Oh, really? Then why don't you call Father down here now? Right away. The time for your farce over and done with. Natsuri-san, let's put an end to the obvious lies, shall we? We have a real mountain of gold right here. Shouldn't we all be honest with each other? Fortunately, we're all in a good mood and feeling very gracious now. Just give it up already. Ugh. Pile of gold this massive carries magical power within it. That power draws out the most honest feelings within people. The light from the chandelier glinted off the golden mountain, lighting them up with its golden sparkle. It was as though the sparkle controlled everyone present. For some time they forgot their age, and howled and laughed, running about and rolling around like a bunch of excited kindergartners at a park. What is all this? What's it supposed to mean? Before the crimes, the epitaph has been solved, and by all the siblings together. That hasn't happened in any of the games before now. Supposedly, Beatrice decided not to commit the crime if the epitaph was solved. Yeah, supposedly. Huh. We'll see about that. Ange snorted, but I believed. This is what Claire decided. Because she entrusted everything to the roulette of fate, she'll obey the result. She let the roulette decide her own fate specifically because they couldn't decide on their own. So she'll do what it says. She'll follow her own rule. She'll definitely keep her promise. I don't think the crime will occur. Yeah, crisis averted, right? Teamwork and friendship. Happy endings all around. Are you sure about that? Yes. Her roulette has already made its decision. This is the end of her game. If it's the end, what happens next? Do they all become happy rich people and leave the family conference unharmed? Does my family get an ingot that isn't chocolate as a parting gift before coming back to me? Will it be a happy end for everyone? You think those witches would chain us to chairs to show us a naive dream like that? Ugh. When she showed off the chain on her wrist with a clank, I was unable to counter her with confidence. But I want to believe, though this might be the least exciting ending, Claire's game has now reached an end. Perhaps just once at the end, she wanted to show us a world where no crime occurs. Now that she has disappeared with no regrets, is she leaving us a parting gift in the form of a game where no crime takes place? In a sense, the most peaceful sort of game. I want to believe. If only these heavy cold chains weren't holding us in a place in this theater. Is someone there? Rosa's shrill cry brought the celebrating to an immediate stop. Rosa knew she'd seen it. The curtain against the wall had fluttered, and a shadow had been there behind it. Come on, don't do that. You're just imagining things. Is someone there? If you are, come out! When Ava yelled, the curtain shook. And then a witch wearing a black dress appeared from the other side. In an instant, everyone realized the dress was the same as the one worn by the witch of the portrait, and they realized one more thing. This person was the owner of this room. Welcome to the Room of the Gold. Her face and voice were expressionless, blank. The others all looked at each other, wondering who should respond. Rudolph was the first to speak. So, you are Beatrice? Indeed. And you're the one who gave Maria that letter? Indeed. Is father behind this? No. This is my game. If that's so, then we've won. We've solved the epitaph's riddle and found the gold. We've accepted your challenge and won. That means this gold belongs to us, right? Indeed, it is as you say. You have solved the epitaph splendidly and discovered the hidden gold. This game ends in your victory. This gold no longer belongs to me, but to all of you. It seems you're a graceful loser. Hey, you. If we hadn't solved the epitaph's riddle, what were you planning to do? The letter said you'd take everything of the Ushimiya family. Yes, I plan to take all your wealth, and all your lives. I plan to do as I please with everything that exists on this island. The witch walked towards the table next to the bed. Then for the first time, the others realized what sat on the table. They were 4 rifles. There was also a case filled with bullets. The witch picked up one of the lead bullets lying on the table and played with it, her face still expressionless as she spoke. If this night ended before you managed to solve the epitaph's riddle, I plan to follow the epitaph and commit 13 murders. What did you say? That's what I thought when I first saw that epitaph. It almost looks like something you'd find in a serial murder mystery novel. That's right. If you had killed 13 people to match the epitaph, that would have made for quite a mysterious crime. There's no way you could do that all by yourself. No matter how many guns you had, killing 13 people, that would just be... I formed my plan with great care and constructed several alternatives. I envisioned all the actions you might take from tonight and through tomorrow, and prepared a mystery to deal with each of those. I'm afraid I cannot reveal those at this point, but it really was a tightly knit set of pleasant, closed-room murders. If there were just a few of us, you probably could have gunned us down in our sleep. But there's no way you could have killed 13 of us. We aren't that stupid. It would seem so. At any rate, I predicted that the epitaph being solved before the first twilight was the most unlikely result. It would seem that us reaching this place was a miscalculation on your part. No. Even this was one of the results of the roulette I wished to create. This is probably the best outcome for all of you. No one will die, and you can leave this island with the gold. Congratulations. This game ends with a perfect victory for you all. No one could solve the riddle. She planned to take a gun and commit a serial murder. Everyone gulped as they watched the witch emotionlessly make her confession. If this confession of yours is the truth, that means you were trying to kill us. Yes, that is true. The hell? How can you just say it like that? You couldn't possibly expect us to treat you favorably after revealing that much to us, right? I am prepared. You may do as you will with me. If you hadn't solved the epitaph, I would have done the same to you, so it is only fair. This girl's got guts. I planned this game because I was prepared to bet my life. I am satisfied with the results. If you wish to kill me now, I am prepared. But now she didn't even treasure her life. As the witch spoke and walked near the others, they automatically stepped back. The gold belongs to all of you. I planned to give everything to the one who discovered it first, but I didn't expect there to be 7 of you. I leave the decision of how to split the gold to you. I will not involve myself. And... The witch walked even closer. The group parted and she walked up to the antique clock behind them. The clock was large and had a dignified feel to it. The witch patted it and spoke. Allow me to explain the device within this clock. For you have gained not just the gold, but the entirety of this island. What do you mean by that? If you read it like a murder case upon the 8th twilight, that only killed... If you read it like a murder case up until the 8th twilight, then only 13 people are killed. But by the 9th twilight, it clearly says that none are to be left alive. What does that mean? That she was planning to massacre all of us? Don't tell me that clock. As you have guessed, it is linked to a set of explosives. Are you the one who set that up? Or was it that Ushimiya Kinzo? Kinzo is the one who set up the device. It's the source of his mad magical power. I don't have a clue what you're talking about. In other words, Dad set up this bomb. And if he ever went broke, he was ready to wipe out everything, including himself, and die? On this island, Ushimiya Kinzo made a contract with the Golden Witch and attained the gold. However, that was not all he gained. What are you talking about? Wait, don't tell me. There is that rumor about the remains of an old Japanese military base existing on Rokonjima. Could it be? Your guess is correct. Beneath this island sleep the remains of an underground Japanese military base from the time of the war, along with 900 tons of explosives. 900 tons? That's unbelievable. If that exploded, the result would be unimaginable. Forget just the mansion blowing up, it'd leave a massive crater. And I believe an expert's estimates put it a hole several dozen meters deep and a kilometer across. There wouldn't even be a trace left. Those explosives can be ignited by a special device, one connected to the activation switch I just flipped. The witch toyed with a switch on the top part of the antique clock. If 24 o'clock arrives when the switch is in this position, the bombs will explode. It's almost 24 o'clock now. In other words, it won't explode X hours after you flip it. It's a time limit bomb that only explodes at midnight. Indeed, it is almost 24 o'clock now. If such an explosion is what you desire, you'd only leave it like this. Who would want that? Turn it off! By this time, Kinzo was probably the only one who knew. The secret base on Rokonjima had started out as a submarine base. However, when that plan reached a standstill, it was redefined as a top-secret base for Homeland Defense. A huge plan had been drawn up to have the Army and Navy perform a pincer attack on American forces if the latter decided to land on Kuchikiri Beach and press towards Tokyo. As a trump card for this massive defensive maneuver, the Navy started stockpiling large quantities of explosives and fuel in absolute secrecy. And the Rokonjima base was the location of that top-secret stockpile. The buried explosives weighed 900 tons in total. Also, fearing that the Americans might find out the island's secrets and seize the explosives, they set up a system for the self-destruction of the entire island. Kinzo, who knew all of this, decided not to remove this device, but to tie it in with a strange clock that could trigger such an explosion any night at midnight. Kinzo was famous for building up his funds using a vast store of gold, then using those funds in several sink-or-swim gambles one after another. Just what did his stockpile of gold and the 900 tons of sleeping explosives mean to him? At this point, we can only guess. Perhaps the true source of Kinzo's mad power wasn't the gold after all. If he lost a big gamble and all he owned, he could erase this entire island from existence with this device. For the rest of his life, he must have put the gold and everything else he had on the line. Kinzo probably stared at this clock at times, sometimes flipping the activation switch and letting it tick down. Maybe whenever he came up against a troubling problem, he would hide in here and flip the switch, with the intention of blowing everything away if he didn't think of a brilliant plan before 24 o'clock came. He could gaze at this mountain of gold, listening to the clock tick towards his death as he searched for an idea. Perhaps Ushima Kinzo's real study wasn't the one in the mansion, but this place instead. Yeah, what a trump card, Kinzo. That sort of switch sounds just like Dad. So maybe each time Dad worried about something, all of us kids were put on the line as well. This is Father, so it wouldn't be unthinkable. This device now belongs to all of you. If you desire a massive explosion, use it whenever you please. Are you crazy? Who'd want a big explosion? These explosives are half a century old, right? Would they even really go off? Yes, of course. The explosives and the fuses are still working. I tested them myself. You tested them? You mean that? I see. Now I finally understand. So that's why the shrine disappeared without a trace. That summer, the shrine had disappeared completely, along with the reef under it. Though people found it odd the waves could have wiped it out so completely, no one paid it much mind. And now this piece fits perfectly into the hole that caused that strange feeling. Indeed. I used that shrine to test whether the explosives were still working after half a century. I believe you are all aware of the result. The little bit I used was enough to make that entire reef vanish. It's easy to see how 900 tons of that would cause an explosion large enough to rewrite the map. If an explosion like that were to occur, it would certainly kill all of us. But what about you? I doubt you were planning to commit a group suicide with us. This underground VIP room is connected by a subterranean passage to the remnants of the military base. If you go straight along that, you'll come out at a hidden mansion on the opposite side of the island, Kuwadorian. It's about 2 kilometers away. If you make it all the way there, you should be able to escape the blast. I see. So you plan to escape to there just before the blast. I've only said that such a thing is possible. You may not believe this, but if the 9th twilight ended before any of you solved the riddle, I plan to die along with everything else. There's something seriously wrong with this girl. She's insane! There's no point overthinking it. If we hadn't solved the epitaph, she would have used those guns. Or else that switch, to massacre all of us, right? There's no doubting that now. You are correct. You have ended this game in the best possible way, without there being even a single victim. I wish to convey my respect and admiration. There may have been 7 of you, but you did solve that riddle, which took me so long to solve in a single night. That is worthy of praise. And I admire you for your graciousness and honesty in defeat. We'll decide how to deal with you in the future, but I intend to do all I can to reach a gentlemanly agreement. Pay me no mind any longer. I am already one of the dead, who is already prepared to kill everyone and die myself. The Golden Witch Beatrice solved the epitaph, reached this room and revived. And now, new people had solved the riddle and reached this room, so her role was finished. Yeah, she had to get rid of all that anti-magic toxin somehow. When the epitaph's riddle was solved, Beatrice's illusion of the witch ended. Most likely, no one in this room was capable of understanding her grim determination. She herself was probably the only one who understood. As long as the many selves inside of her understood, that was enough. I am one, yet many. I abandoned myself to the magical roulette of endless possibilities. The result, the answer, is this. This is what the tarot cards known as the Epitaph Ceremony have shown me. Beatrice is already dead. They did not kill her. I killed her myself, in accordance with fate's command. They will never understand for all eternity. The witch stared up at the ceiling without speaking for a while, then looked as though she suddenly remembered something. She grabbed the sleeves of her dress and took out a sort of card. Oh yes, I forgot. I have no need for money after death. I will give this to all of you as well. A cash card? I have converted a portion of the gold to cash. This is for the account that the money is in. I see. So this is the source of the Golden Witch's magical power. How much? I've forgotten the details. However, there's more than 1 billion yen. Billion? Now that really would be magic. True. There's nothing you couldn't do with that much money. Very true. The strongest magic to counter the human's anti-magic toxin is this magic of gold. It may be that this card holds greater power than the ingots. Certainly. Cash would be much more agreeable than ingots. Here you go. I have no need of this anymore. The card she held out was not taken by any of them. Who would ever just hand over a card with 1 billion yen in it? The mountain of gold, the device for blowing up the island, the card with 1 billion yen. All these surpassed their understanding. So, no one could bring themselves to take it. I don't like it. What don't you like? Here you go, here's a mountain of gold, and I'll turn off the explosives and give you a card worth 1 billion yen while we're at it. It sounds far too good to be true. You're trying to trick us somehow, aren't you? I have no desire to trick you, but I won't try to force you to believe. I have offered you everything, revealed everything. What you believe and what you do is now for you, the new masters of the gold, to decide. You are even free to disbelieve all I say and leave this place. Eva, I can't imagine she's lying. And how could you know that? I don't like how relaxed she's acting. It's as though she thinks she's already won. I just had an idea a second ago. What if she's lying about which is the off side of the switch? What do you mean, Ne-san? Just a second ago, this woman flipped the switch to the side she said would turn off the bomb. But what if that actually armed the bomb? We solved the riddle, so you turn the bomb switch to on, trying to blow us and everything else up, right? Hey Aru, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Good to see you today. And just as a note, I know some of you in the chat have already read through this episode before. Like, for people that are new, like, go ahead, keep, like, reacting and putting out your theories and things. But if you know what's gonna happen, be careful about what you say. Even if you think you're giving things that aren't spoilers, or you're, like, hinting at things, they could still be spoilers without you realizing that you're giving them. So just be mindful of that. I'd like to remind people that whenever we play mystery games, because we seem to come across that once in a while. If that is what you think, then feel free to flip the switch on this clock. It'll be 24 o'clock in 1 minute. The clock will show you the truth. What did you say? Hey, what were we supposed to do? Is the bomb set to odd now? Or off? I can't imagine she's lying. It's inactive now. We shouldn't flip it. But I don't like it. Why is she so resigned to her fate? Why is she offering us things one after another? She's tricking us to buy time. She wants to buy time until 24 o'clock so she can go down in the flames along with us. What about the switch itself? Is there some way to tell if it's on or off? On the upper part of the antique clock was a metal switch that could slide right or left. Right now it was set to the left. However, there were no marks in particular on either side to tell of which one was off and which one was on. Hey, tell us the truth. Which way's off? Left. It's off now. You idiot! You really expect an honest answer from her? It's the opposite, it has to be. The right side must be off. We don't have any more time, Nissan. Quit it, Ava! Don't touch the switch! It's set to off now. Ava-san, take your hand off it! I agree. It's off now. If she wanted to kill us with a bomb, she wouldn't have told us about it. Beatrice! Don't think you can trick me? 5, 4, 3. Yeah, where's the red truth when you need it, right? The second hand of the clock ticked past 24 o'clock. October 4th ended, and the curtain rose on October 5th, 1986. The switch was still pointing to the left. The witch's words had been proven correct. Have I gained your trust now? You bitch! With a hideous sweat-covered expression, Ava snatched the cash card away from the witch's hand. How about a bank book and seal? We can't withdraw anything with just a card. All you need is the pin. It's 8 digits long. Wait a second! I'm writing it down! Ava and Kyrie both took out a pen and notepad and began writing the 8-digit number the witch told them. That is everything I have to tell you and to give to you. I will say nothing more. All of my tasks have been completed. After saying this, Witch spun around and sat down on the bed. She wasn't even looking at the others anymore. She sat there like an empty husk, which had, just as she said, finished everything it existed to do. For a while, everyone watched the witch to see if she would remember something else and start talking. However, she said nothing else. The witch who had called herself one of the dead was now little more than a large French doll wearing a black dress. Yeah, there's a high chance that her 8-digit number is probably the number that we've been given before, the one that's based after Battler's birthday, I believe. Where it's like a combination of both of their birthdays. But I guess the identity of the number is not important now, but gold is the only physical embodiment of magic that can exist in the human world. Since ancient times, even a small bit of it could control men with its magic. In that case, how much magic power would dwell in it? If it was piled up in a mountain so high, you'd have to look up to see the top. Don't be stupid, we'll split it evenly. Isn't that the obvious solution? Didn't we say that half this pile would belong to me, and the other half was split between the 4 of us? The yells of the humans dancing around the gold reverberated through the underground room. In front of the pile of gold, they were arguing about how it should be split. Did you solve the riddle all by yourself, Nissan? You didn't, right? The 4 of us siblings solved it together. Of course we'd split it in 4 equal parts. Coward! Weren't you the ones who first made that proposal about the gold's distribution? How could you disregard that so easily? You really think you're in a position to bargain when you're the ones hiding Dad's death? Yeah. You've been swindling us this whole time, treating Father's wealth as if it were your own. All you need to do is split the gold evenly, and we'll drop the rest, including that particular issue. It sounds very fair to me. Well, if you insist, go ahead and try splitting it 4 ways. Let's divide this pile up right now and you can take all your own shares home. I hope you have pockets that can hold 2.5 tons of ingots. It seems you've all been driven mad by the gold and lost the ability to make rational judgments. What do you mean by that, Kraus Nissan? Look at this ingot. As you can see, there are no official markings, just Father's crest. How do you intend to turn unmarked gold like that into cash? Well... Have you finally figured it out? This pile of gold may be worth 20 billion yen. However, that's only if you can trade it for cash. Are any of you capable of exchanging this many unmarked, unidentified ingots for cash at the proper rates? If it was just a necklace or a ring, exchanging it for cash would have been a manageable problem. However, doing that for several tons of unmarked gold that couldn't be made public would be impossible for any normal human person. However, Kraus could do it. Among the several business friends that remained from Kinzo's generation, there were some who had black market ties and a lot of financial power. The billion yen tied to the cash card the Golden Witch had held out a second ago had already been turned to cash thanks to one of Kinzo's connections. However, none of the other siblings had any connections like that. They would have to rely on Kraus to get cash for the gold. Now you're finally seeing it. I apologize for hiding all those things about Father. However, you're in no position to take advantage of that weakness. You really think you have such an advantage just because of something like that? What do you intend to do with that gun? Please, you're scaring us. Ava was gripping the gun so hard it looked like it might snap. The 4 guns the witch had placed in this room were now in the hands of the relatives. Just as the gold had led their hearts astray, it seemed these guns had the magical power to turn their hearts to violence. Finally, a scuffle arose between Ava and Kraus. Off to the side, Natsume started arguing with Rudolph and his wife, and the grand underground VIP room was filled with thundering jeers. After being forced to watch the scene for so long, Anja's face was starting to contort with pain. It was only natural after being shown this abusive argument between her parents and the other relatives. What on earth? It was painful for Leon too. Leon would have tried to intervene and calm them if that had been possible. The gold isn't going anywhere, right? If you just slow down and think, you'll be able to resolve this. Going by what Ava and the others said, it's clear that they'll need a lot of money before the end of the year. However, the billion-yen cash card should be more than enough to pay for that. That would handle their emergency expenses, so they could then convert the gold to cash at their leisure, and just split it amongst themselves. Sure, maybe Kraus was the only one capable of converting the gold. That might give him an advantage over the other siblings. However, this gold couldn't be dealt with by open means. In addition to attracting public attention, it would also lead to various legal problems. It was better for this secret money to remain secret. If they want to get the largest portions possible, then they should all agree not to tell anyone about this gold. In other words, to maximize their profits, they would all need to make a gentleman's agreement to keep this secret. Kraus did have a slight advantage. However, it was possible for the other relatives to refuse to cooperate and tell the world about the gold. And then there was also the concealment of Kinzo's death to consider. Kraus was an investor. He needed not only financial clout, but also a certain degree of public confidence in him. His advantage isn't big enough for him to act so overbearing. The mountain of gold has made everyone lose their ability to think rationally. This isn't an argument between adults. It's just a fight between kids. What's so fun about showing us this? Or is this the game of some new witch? Are they watching us suffer from somewhere and laughing? By now, even I didn't have a clue who was showing this to us, or for what reason. At the very least, this new tale didn't seem to be overflowing with affection. At first, I thought it was a tale of a beautiful world, where no crime occurred, and Claire's regrets had vanished. But something's different. This tale is clearly filled with ill will towards us. I'm sure of that much now, but I don't have a clue who would want to show us this. Suddenly, an explosion rang out. I didn't think it was the sound of gunfire. After all, people living a normal life never hear that sort of sound. It was the sound of thick raindrops hitting the floor. There was no rain in this underground VIP room. It was blood dripping down from Natsui's right eye. The bullet had gone in through her right eye, towards the back of her head. Natsui! It's your fault for jumping at me! The gun, which fell from Ava's grasp, landed on the floor with a hard metallic clang. As though in response to that sound, Natsui's head slowly turned to face the ceiling. Natsui! Natsui! Natsui flopped backwards. When the back of her head hit the floor, a red splash spread out beneath it, forming a single flower to adorn her dead face. Natsui, Nesan. Why'd you shoot her? Why, Ava? Ava! Kraus howled, raised his gun, and ran at Ava. At the same time, Hideyoshi leapt between them. A scuffle broke out between the two men. How could you? Natsui! Kraus, Nissan, you got it wrong. You got it all wrong. It was just an accident. Ava, how could you? I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I didn't shoot. I didn't. Even though I told her to stop, she just jumped at me. Kraus, who had just seen his wife killed before his eyes, had lost all traces of rationality in his expression. He was so furious that if he had knocked Hideyoshi aside and jumped at Ava, he might have torn her throat out. Why did you kill her? Why? Ava! It was an accident! An accident! Calm down, Kraus-Nissan! Ow! 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 Another explosion rang out. Hideyoshi's face was covered with blood. The two of them had been fighting over the gun Kraus held, trying to push it away from themselves. When the barrel had turned to point at Kraus's chin, the sneering, formless Reaper, master of the Room of Gold, had swung its scythe once more. A line of blood trickled from Kraus's mouth. The two fell down with Kraus's body on top of Hideyoshi. Letting out a cowardly cry, Hideyoshi backed away before Kraus's body could cover him. Here! I didn't do anything! Kraus-Nissan's finger just got caught on the trigger. It's an accident. An accident, I tell you. That's right, an accident. This was all an accident. As the pair of them broke down sobbing and repeatedly claiming it was an accident, Rose and the others were unable to say a thing. The witch also watched the scene, but said nothing, and appeared to be completely disinterested. It wasn't our fault! It was just an accident! You saw, right? Right? You saw that, didn't you, Rosa? Kraus-Nissan and Natsui-Nissan both let their emotions get a hold of them and charged at us! Who knows? I couldn't say either way. Stupid Rosa! You saw it, didn't you? You saw it from right there, so you must know! I'm sorry. I can't tell if it happened by accident, or if he killed them and tried to make it look like an accident. Rosa, you... Rudolphkin, you saw! You know what happened, right? Right? Sorry, but I agree with Rosa. We can't tell if it was an accident or intentional. Rosa's and Rudolph's gazes looked very cold and indifferent to Ava and her husband. What are we gonna do? They were shot to death! Saying it was a simple accident won't convince anyone. The forest! We'll say they went to the forest and went missing. That'll buy us some time. That won't get us off the hook, right? The police will just search the whole forest. And anyway, why would those two go off into the uncultivated forest like that? It looks suspicious from the start. There's no way we'll get away with it. You'll be okay. If we hide the corpses here, no one will be able to find them. If we all play dumb, it'll work. It won't. There's no way you could fool the police. If the two of them disappear during a family conference where we are arguing over the inheritance problem, the police won't just put it down as a case of missing persons. I just had an idea. Though Ava had been scratching at her head, overcome with emotion, her arms suddenly fell as though their strings had been cut. What did you think of? An accident. We just need to make it look like an accident. Idiot! What kind of accident? There are clear gunshot wounds on both corpses, right? Even if we burn them to make it look like they were caught in a fire, it'd still be obvious they were killed by guns. Fire? That's not good enough. We need more. A much more massive accident. A massive accident? Ava slowly walked forward, tapped it, and spoke. An explosion accident. We just need a sort of accident that will leave no traces of their corpses. As she played with a switch that would cause an automatic explosion at 24 o'clock, Ava spun around to look at them, a crazed expression on her face. It was truly a mad flash of inspiration. If they flipped the switch to the right and waited for 24 o'clock, the 900 tons of explosives would wipe out the mansion without a trace. There wouldn't even be anything left of the corpses. There certainly wouldn't be any way to tell they had died by gunshot wounds before the explosion. It's an unshakable fact this island is still filled with explosives from the war. Then by coincidence tomorrow night, something will set it off by chance, and the whole thing will explode. Yes, it'll be an accident. An explosion accident. What do you say? There's no way the police will find out the truth. This way we can pull it off. We can hide the manner of their deaths. That's crazy. Shaking, Hideyoshi frantically searched for a counter-argument, hoping to shut down Ava's mad idea. But he couldn't find one. If they blew everything up, the facts would all be muddled. They could make it look as though Kraus and Natsui had died in an explosion accident. It's perfect, just perfect. After all, it was an accident, they died anyway. We're just changing the type of accident. Isn't that right? We can think of any story we want. By chance, the rest of us will happen to be in the hidden mansion tomorrow night. Then when the explosion accident occurs, we'll be lucky enough to survive. That story should work. Just what sort of story are you planning on? What kind of story could explain how the two of them alone remained here, while the rest of us conveniently went down to the hidden mansion and managed to escape? That's what we've got to think of now, stupid Rosa. It doesn't matter what it is as long as we all agree to it. I'll think of something. I am thinking. You all think too. Someone think of something. Calm down, Ava. I'll think about it, so will everyone else. We'll definitely think of something and it'll all work out. We'll share the burden. You won't have to carry it all by yourself. It'll all be okay. It will. I know we'll think of a good excuse. What kind of excuse? We took the kids and all the servants to go exploring an underground passageway, leaving just the two of them behind, and the rest of us all decided to spend the night in a hidden mansion? How could any excuse work? It's insane! And thinking of that insane thing is our job. Why are you acting like this has nothing to do with you? You think of something too. Ne-san, let me ask you a question. If you blow up the island, what will happen to this gold? Well... We finally got our hands on 200 billion yen of gold. And you want to blow it all away? We could just carry it away, yeah, that's right. The explosion will happen tomorrow at midnight. We have a full day. If we all carry it together, we might... You realize there's 10 tons of it, right? Just how much do you think our small group can carry? Back and forth across this long underground passage that goes all the way across the island. You're being absurd. Here, we have this card, right? The card worth 1 billion yen, the one the woman gave us. We'll just carry as much gold as we can. We have the card with 1 billion yen on top of that. If we split it 3 ways, we'll have more than 300 million each. That should be enough for all our purposes. I don't like it. You don't like what? We have a mountain worth 20 billion yen right here. Why should we be satisfied with just 300 million yen each? Rosa! Ava's face twisted in anguish, was met by Rosa's look of cold unconcern. If we gave Kraus and Nissan a share, we each have a share of 5 billion. Subtract the 300 million from the card and the rest of my share is 4.7 billion. If you agree to pay that much to me, then you can do whatever you want with this mountain of gold. What do you think you're saying? So you don't intend to cooperate? Ne-san, please calm down and listen. This plan will let both of us leave with the maximum amount of money. What? I want you to go to the police and turn yourself in, admitting you got into a scuffle and the gun went off. Are you crazy? I don't want to go to the police. Of course, we don't want to say the crime happened here. The police would find the gold. Yes, how about the Rose Garden? It's pouring rain now, so the police probably won't find any contradictions at the crime scene. I'll let you think of an excuse for why you and Nissan started fighting while you're holding guns in the rainy Rose Garden. Please don't try to get us and our shares involved, just because you want to hide your own crime. Rosa! It's not so bad, right? After all, it's not like they'll keep you in jail for several decades. It was an accident, right? You'll be able to get out after just a few years. When you've paid for all your sins and come back, then you can do whatever you want with your 5 billion. No, I'd never do that. What would happen if we were arrested? What would happen to my husband's company? Who cares about the company? The 5 billion yen working any longer would just be a waste of time, right? Rosa never intended to go along with Ava's proposal. It was a question of maximizing each person's portion. No one had anything to gain from an explosion accident. An explosion would conceal Kraus and Natsui's deaths, and it would serve no further purpose. For Rosa's perspective, this ideal outcome would be for them to confess to their crimes without any unnecessary tricks. All she wanted was to change the crime scene from here to a different place. However, Ava didn't want to be arrested. She didn't like having her share shrink from 5 billion to 300 million, but even that was more than enough to cover the amount she had been trying to wring out of Kraus in the first place. She wanted to hide what had happened here, even if it meant blowing away 4.7 billion yen. What would happen if they were arrested? The life, the company, the trust that Ava had worked so long to build were things that couldn't be bought back with money. So she wanted to hide Kraus and Natsui's deaths, even if it meant blowing up all 4.7 billion yen worth of her gold. But from Rosa's perspective, that was just irrational nonsense. Rosa! What do you think you're doing with that gun, Ne-san? Are you going to have me die in the explosion too? That'll make finding an excuse even harder. In fact, it'll make it harder to explain away the other 2 deaths as an accident too. 3 whole deaths means it'll be quite a large-scale crime. It would probably get you the death penalty, or life in prison if you're lucky. Even in the best case, you'll probably be put away for more than a decade, right? Turn yourself in. If you do, this will be no more than a pair of unfortunate accidents. Of course, your jail term won't be too terrible either. Don't worry about George-kun. We'll take good care of him. And we'll make sure your entire share of 5 billion yen is waiting for you when you get back. Ava ground her teeth and glared. The Rosa she knew should have been shaking and obeying her commands. And yet Rosa wasn't scared. Her blank expression, no, that faint smile, was the one Ava had never seen before. Put the gun down, Ne-san. Once you calm down, you'll see that my plan is the best one. Jail isn't so bad, right? Think of it as a financial strategy. Even if they put you in for 10 years, there'll be 5 billion waiting for you when you get out. That's like working for 500 million yen salary, right? If you think of it that way, won't you enjoy your job more? Liar! You just want to steal my share away while I'm there. Like your man did to you. He has nothing to do with this, okay? I won't run away. I'll never run away with someone's money. Oh, I'll never do it. Rosa's once frigid face was filled with rage. The 2 howling people pointed their guns at each other, shouting insults. You could smell the Gold Room's Reaper slinking closer. The smell of gunpowder, the explosive smell of death filled the room. A bubble of blood dripped from Rosa's mouth. Then she fell over lifelessly like a mannequin someone had pushed over. Ava? It wasn't me! I swear I didn't even pull the trigger! The round in the chamber of your gun was spent when you fired at Natsui-san, right? You never reloaded, so even if you pull the trigger, that gun won't kill anyone. Have no fear. As Kiri said this, she maneuvered the lever action with a practiced hand, and a smoke-smelling shell casing was ejected. It hit the floor with a small metallic sound. That tiny sound had a disturbing ring to it. Rosa-san's analysis was a little naive. She has no idea how difficult it would be to exchange this many unmarked gold ingots for money. Back in Dad's day, even just showing this gold to get funding was enough to create the massive rumor called the Ushimiya Legend of the Gold. Exchanging this for cash is impossible. A pile of gold you can't use is no better than a pile of crap. Kirie being straight up mafia, you're right. Don't forget who her family is. 10 tons of gold were exchanged for cash on the black market, and the successor and his wife died mysterious deaths. Expecting that to go unnoticed is what's really unbelievable. We don't want to get the police involved. We'll blow up this island and destroy all the evidence. If it's tough parting with the gold, feel free to grab as many as you can hold. The 1 billion yen on the cash card is more than enough. In other words, Eva Nesan was right. I'm glad. It looks like we're on the same page. If the police get involved, who knows what might happen? It's the same with cashing in the gold. I'm sure that would have tripped us up somewhere and we had no choice. The 1 billion that woman over there exchanged for cash is the only money we'll be able to get our hands on. And even splitting that billion, it'd be more than enough for what we need. On top of that, now that Rosa's dead, our shares have increased even more. We can each leave this island with 500 million. Exactly. As long as we don't let our greedy desire to cash in the gold control us, we could pretend that everything that occurred on this island never happened. We have a way to do that right here. By this point, neither deaths from the accidental discharges nor shooting murders meant anything on this island. Everything would be erased equally by the explosion accident. No matter what happened between now and midnight the next day, everything would be rewritten. And you told me to turn myself in, stupid Rosa. You weren't satisfied with just 300 million? This is what you get for being too greedy. You brought this upon yourself. But Kirie-san, there was no need to shoot her, right? Even Rosa-san would have figured it out if you just told her. I did need to shoot her. After all, Rosa-san's the only one who didn't fire her gun. What does that matter? The guns lying at your feet are Kraus Nissan's, and Eva Nesan's. Both of those have been fired. However, Rosa-san's gun can shoot if you just pull the trigger. It's hard to reload one of these if you aren't used to a lever action. An amateur would have some trouble pulling it off. Kirie-san, what are you talking about? You! They finally realized what Kirie meant. Rosa had the only gun that could still fire, so I shot her first. Oh, how foolish we were. Why didn't we realize sooner? Even though we knew there's a mechanism for erasing everything that happens on this island. Eva and Hideyoshi hurried to pick up the guns that lay at their feet. At the same time, fire spat from Kirie's gun once more. Hideyoshi let out a short scream, clutched at his chest, and fell over face down. Dear! Dear! Why is this... Eva fiddled with the lever action, trying to imitate something she vaguely remembered from a Western movie, but something seemed to be caught, and the still open lever didn't budge. See? It's pretty hard. You! Kirie finished reloading with a fluid motion. The way she held it was as innocent and sure as a kid playing with a squirt gun. With another heartless cry of gunfire, the puppet called Eva slumped to the floor as though its strings had been cut. Rudolph-san, the 1 billion yen card. Sure. The cash card with 1 billion yen, which Eva had just grabbed from the witch. That alone was worth more than enough. The 20 billion yen pile of gold had skewed everyone's sense of value. Just a few million yen is enough for people to kill over, and this was 1 billion yen. Rosa-san, those were some famous last words there. Just 300 million. You were too greedy. Huh, no kidding. Ugh, lucky me. I don't have to fish through her corpse. As Rudolph walked up to Ava's body, he found the card lying beside it, and picked it up. So this flimsy little card is worth 1 billion yen. Sticking with the company would be a waste of time. So do we close up shop and spend the rest of our lives in some southern country? I'm sure you'd get bored right away. Besides, I like seeing you get all worried about some problem, then leap around like a little kid when you finally overcome it. Sure you do. Thank you, Miss Golden Witch. Rudolph-san and I will make good use of this billion. House Nissan promised to treat you in a gentlemanly fashion, but I haven't made such a promise. She pulled the trigger without a trace of mercy. When the ringing of the gunfire died down, blood trickled from the witch's mouth, and she fell over onto the bed. Once again, Kiri ejected the used shell casing. The four metal sounds of used shells hitting the floor seemed to symbolize the fact that Rudolph and his wife now possessed all shares of the gold. Kyrie, more like Kylie. She's scary. All of them were really slow-witted. From the moment they heard about the bomb, they should have known that they wouldn't be leaving this island as a big happy family. Sorry about this, Aniki, Rosa. Well, that's life for you. Give me a break, okay? Aniki and Aniki got into a fight and Rosa gets dragged in, and I'm the one who picks up the pieces. Just like it's always been, right? It wasn't as though Rudolph and Kiri had planned to kill everyone and take everything for themselves from the start. Kiri had quickly realized by the length of the barrel of the gun in her hands, it would probably hold 5 rounds at a time. Yes, Kiri and Rudolph were both very familiar with this gun. Rudolph, whose interest in guns from old westerns came from his father, owned a shotgun of the same model. Even Kiri had earned the qualifications to use that gun, becoming familiar with it, that they could go shooting together for fun. Including the witch, there had been 8 people there. 6 people besides the 2 of them. Each gun held 5 rounds. That was 1 short. They didn't have enough to kill everyone. To be honest, it really surprised me when they got into a fight and one of the guns went off. That coincidental accident had provided the missing bullet. It wasn't the second shot. The very first shot, which had accidentally killed Natsui, had guaranteed that this massacre would happen. In this smoke and corpse-filled room of gold, the 2 of them wore easygoing smiles, hardly any different from those they usually wore. What do we do now? Rudolph picked up Rosa's gun. Then he fired a test shot at the wall and ejected the old shell with a smooth motion like Kirie's. Kirie went to the box of bullets on the table, casually picked up a few and loaded them one after another into her gun. Set the bomb switch to on. Then we just need to wait 24 hours. Everyone's gonna run wild when morning comes and they can't find us. Then we just need to make sure they don't. Guess so. What about Badler? He's your son, not mine. Don't say that. Look how attached he is to you. He really respects you. Then think of a clever way to trick him. I'll worry about Ange. You worry about Badler-kun. Fair enough? Sure. I'm kind to my own children, but it's a real pain to be nice to Asumu-san's kid. You understand, I hope. Kirie's voice had grown cold. She had acted warmly towards Badler because that had been the adult's thing to do. He was Rudolph's son, so she tried to avoid being hostile, nothing more. But underneath, he was the son of Asumu, a woman Kirie still hated even though she was dead. Now that she had given birth to Ange and finally built up a new family, was Badler's return really such a happy thing for her? Get yourself ready. Now that we've come this far, we can only go for the billion yen or die trying. If you can't convince Badler-kun, I'm sorry, but I won't be taking any chances. No need to threaten me. I'll take care of it. I'll find a good story to tell him. Make sure you do. I know Ange will be very sad if she's forced to hear about Badler-kun dying in an accident. Sure. How do we start? We have nothing to gain by waiting for morning. Now is the best time. Oh, wonderful. Not even time for a break. Yeah. Yeah. A test? What's this supposed to be? At this time of night? Starting now? Eller yelled wildly into the receiver. When he said at this time of night, George and Jessica turned to look. According to the clock, it was past midnight. It might be normal time to be told to brush their teeth and go to bed, but he couldn't understand what this test thing was about. Okay, I'll hand it over. Here, George Aniki. It's my dad. Hello? This is George speaking. Hey, George-kun. Sorry to call so late. You weren't sleeping already, were you? You were all still chatting away? Pretty much. Rie-chan's sleeping. Oh wait, it looks like she just woke up. So, what did you want to talk about? Adler-kun said something about a test. Yeah. Dad could be such a pain sometimes. He suddenly came down from his old room, a bunch of stuff happened, and by the end he was talking about which grandchild would make the best successor. But isn't Uncle Kraus the successor? He says the four of us aren't up to the job, so he's gonna skip us adults and choose one of you grandkids instead. It's all so sudden, we're really freaking out here. Aniki and the others are all arguing about it across the room. I'll bet you could hear Aniki shrieking in the background, huh? Is that so? If that's what grandfather says, then there's no way around it, I guess. In that case, what should we do? He says he wants to call you out one by one, starting with Jessica-chan. Oh, wait a sec. Okay, you still there? It looks like you and Jessica-chan will be the first up to bat. He wants Jessica-chan to go to the parlor in the mansion. You're supposed to go out in front of the chapel. If it's so sudden, I hardly feel ready. What sort of test is it? It looks like Dad made some kind of crazy quiz, some weird questions about what it means to be the head. Of course, a few things about this seemed off to George. However, Kinzo was famous for doing radical things on a whim. Even this strange test seemed plausible once he heard it was the sudden idea of Kinzo's. But even so, if he wanted to test them one by one, why wouldn't he call them out one by one? They could have just had everyone wait in some reception room to be called one at a time. Why would two people be called to different places at the same time? The plan didn't seem to make sense, so George felt he was missing something. Still, I wonder why he wanted to meet you in front of the chapel of all places. He expects a lot from you. I think he wants to talk to you alone. Not sure what about. Grandfather wants to talk to me. I wonder what he's got to say. I mean, you're the most talented of all his grandkids. He's probably got something to tell you in particular, right? Anyway, that's what he says. Get over there right away. I'm supposed to go to the chapel too, so let's get this over with, or we're both gonna catch colds. I see. Okay. Then I'll head towards the front of the chapel, and Jessica-chan will go to the parlor. Sure. I'll see you in a bit then. What sort of test or private conversation could Kinzo possibly want to have at this time of night? Then again, it's a well-known fact that Kinzo doesn't have long left to live. It wouldn't be so strange if he wanted to give some sort of will to each of his descendants individually. Inside George's mind, the faint feeling that something was wrong was replaced by a desire to meet Kinzo directly and hear about this more in detail. George set down the receiver and quickly explained to the others. It's as you heard. Grandfather says he wants to give us all some kind of test. Huh? A test? Yeah, everyone knows how weird Kinzo is, so anything they say that he does, or any lie they make up, just sounds plausible because of how weird the guy was. Very unfortunate for everyone else. Oh yeah, he could jump out of a library window on the third floor or whatever, just fine. Oh yeah, he'll call people out in the middle of the night and test them. That's Kinzo for you. Oh yeah, he has a bunch of bombs under the island. Oh, that trickster Kinzo. After hiding in his study all these years, he suddenly decides to give us a test this late at night? Damn that old geezer. What's he thinking? Seems our parents feel the same way. It sounds as though they're very worked up about it. Well, I doubt getting worked up about it will change grandfather's mind. Exactly. We might as well accept it. It's grandfather's order, after all. Let's obey it. To start, Jessica-chan and I are being called out. I'm going to the chapel. Jessica-chan is supposed to go to the parlor in the mansion. What about Maria and me? I think they'll contact you later. Wait here. A midnight test. What could it be? What kind of test is it? A quiz? A puzzle? I'm really good at wolves and sheep puzzles. Maria, who is now fully awake, seemed to be very excited about this unexpected midnight test. Then we'll just hang out here. Yes. Okay, I'm going. Sounds like they're already waiting for us. So he's making one of his grandkids a successor. Sounds great to me. Now I can let one of you guys deal with it. I'm gonna become the successor. I want to do it. Having Maria as successor wouldn't be so bad. Bye. See you later. Vice President Sakutaro. Rudolph put down the receiver and stood up. Okay. Guess I'm going to the spot in front of the chapel. It's damn cold out there. Goda-san, have some coffee waiting for me when I get back, will you? Next to Rudolph, Goda was lying face up. His face was covered by a crossword puzzle book. However, its pages were stained with blood, and you didn't need to move the book to imagine how he met his pitiful end. How was it? A nice script, don't you think? Yep. We should be thanking Dad. If we just say it was him being fickle, no one's gonna doubt us. Then let's split up. I'll take care of Jessica-chan. You take care of George-kun. You got it. Let's get this over with quickly so we can relax and have some coffee. There won't be any problems, yes? No sudden pangs of conscience? Kirie smiled coldly. It probably would have been safer to call them out one by one and finish them off together. However, Kirie had chosen to have her husband work separately. She wanted to measure Rudolph's resolve. If she was the only one who got her hands dirty, and Rudolph just watched, his heart wouldn't be as dedicated to this venture. By having him dirty his own hands, she could make him truly determined to see this thing through. Kirie understood the sort of mind game better than anyone else. Rudolph reflexively averted his gaze from the cold glint in her eyes, but then he just shrugged and answered her question. Of course. We have 1 billion yen riding on this, and I'm a man. I'm not gonna miss a chance that'll never come again in my lifetime. I expected no less of you, Rudolph-san. I love people who seize chances when they come. That's why I fell in love with you. Thanks. I'm glad. Rudolph-san. What? Stay like that always, okay? Huh? What'd you say? Always remain the same Rudolph-san I love. Okay? Of course. When I ever let you down. You should be worrying more about what kind of champagne we'll use to toast our victory. I'll do that. Take care now. If we really treasure Battler-kun, don't kill George-kun in front of the chapel, okay? It'll be a pain if he finds the body. Yeah, I know. I'll lure him away somehow. We'll be outside and it's raining. Should be some way to do it. And you want a villain in some old western, got it? Don't grant any last requests or take any final messages, okay? Kirie lifted up her gun again and ran the lever to eject the casing of the round she killed Goda with. Yeah, when have I ever let you down? I don't know, when you married someone else other than me? Apparently she is fine with that now? Sort of? Dear. Ava was holding Hideyoshi's body and crying. She hadn't been shot at all. The bullet had grazed her head and missed. She hadn't been playing dead. She really thought she'd been shot. When Kirie's gun spat fire, Ava felt something fierce skim past her head, before feeling lightheaded and fainting. Then she had awoken in the now silent room of the gold. The remains of her beloved husband lay beside her, as well as Kraus, Natsui, and Rosa's corpses. It was a room of death and piled up bodies. When she had cried all she could over Hideyoshi's body, she realized she still had something she needed to do. George is a danger! George! George! They're trying to use the bomb to blow up everything, to bury this whole island with an explosion accident. Of course. As Ava had expected, the switch on the clock was set to the right, which meant it was active. Ava moved to flip it to the left, and stopped. That's right. As long as the switch points to the right, everything that happens will disappear in this night of illusions. Yes, this is an illusion. No matter what happens tonight, everything will become muddled and hidden away. They're probably gonna kill everyone else too. That has to be it, I'm sure of it. When she looked at the table with the box of bullets, she saw signs they had roughly grabbed a bunch of bullets before leaving. It clearly showed that they planned to use that many bullets. I have to fight, if only to protect just the life of my precious son. The gun that I dropped when I was shot is still stuck with the lever open. No matter how hard I pull it, it won't open any further, and it won't close again. Apparently a bullet has gotten jammed, breaking it. It's just as Kyrie said, loading a bullet is tough if you aren't used to it. Please, dear, lend me your strength. Lend me your strength, so I can protect George. In Hideyoshi's hand was Kraus's gun, which he had been trying to pick up. Ava took it, prayed to her husband one more time, and tugged on the lever handle. With a light metallic sound, the golden casing spun through the air and bounced off the ground. When she timidly tried to push the lever back, this time it returned to its original place without any resistance. There was another metallic clang. It was the sound of a new bullet being loaded. I figured it'd be something like this. Someone's scheming to show me the game that disgusts me the most, just to mock me. In the game so far, various people have been suspected of being the culprit or an accomplice. The only difference now was that Rudolph and Kyrie were those suspects. However, to Ange, that was the most infuriating plot twist possible. Even Leon was full of painful thoughts. Solving the epitaph was supposed to be the only miracle that could lead to a game without a single victim. But ironically, the tragedy hadn't been averted even so. Does this mean we aren't allowed to have a future where we all happily return from this island alive, even if the epitaph is miraculously solved before the crime occurs? A miracle certainly will not occur. Those words which I had heard in one of the fragments Bernd Castell had shown me raced through my mind. Bernd Castell-san, you showed me how wonderful my world was. I don't want to believe that you created this tale just to hurt Ange. By now, even I realize you're the game master here. Please tell me, why are you showing us this game? Of course, no one answered Leon's muttered question. The game created to mock Ange continued emotionlessly, with more terrible twists that didn't betray anyone's expectations anymore. Ha! Show me whatever terrible game you like. You're trying to say that this is one of the endless possibilities inside the cat box, right? Just do whatever you want. I won't let something like this get to me. Someday I'll find out the truth of what happened on October 5th, 1986. After meeting Kyrie in the parlor, Jessica was told the test would be held in the dining hall, and she followed Kyrie there. Aunt Kyrie, there's no one here. He'll be here soon. Sit over there. Jessica sat in the chair she'd been offered, looking nervous and agitated. Kyrie was by far the calmer of the two. Hey Dragonstorm, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Good to see you. Yeah, this is a banger. Kyrie closed the door behind her, revealing the gun that rested behind it. Jessica was facing the other way, so she saw nothing. Did you hear anything about this, Aunt Kyrie? Like what kind of test this is? Yes, it'll be over soon. I'm sure hope so. As she complained, Jessica turned her head around, and the tip of her nose bumped into the cold metal. Huh? Uncle Rudolph, what are you doing? Huh. I guess shooting people in the back just isn't for me after all. Hey, that was dangerous. What on earth are you doing? Come on, why else would someone point a gun and pull the trigger? Rudolph reloaded rapidly and pulled the trigger again without any sign of hesitation. As the sound of gunfire thundered through the rain, George grabbed at his side and fell to his knees. Ugh! That's weird. I guess it really does shoot low. This gun's really got it bad. Somebody, help me! Uncle Rudolph is... George started stumbling away, still clutching at his side. His voice as he called for help was weak and thin. In comparison, Rudolph, who stood behind him, looked perfectly calm as he fiddled with his gun and checked his sights. It hurts. It hurts. Ugh. It felt to George as though something had been gouged into his side. It was so painful he could barely stand and walk. He leaned against the trunk of a tree. As he crouched down trying to cover his wound, he was no longer able to stand back up. George didn't have a clue what was going on. However, he had felt as though something was wrong this whole time. Of course, it was strange that he'd be called out alone to a place like this at a time like this. And yet, how could he have known that something was wrong? After all, his own uncle had told him his grandfather was asking him to join the family conference. How could he have suspected? Sorry about this, Georgekin. It hurts, doesn't it? If I knew it'd come to this, it would have been kind of to blow out your brains from behind. I thought it'd be too cruel to finish you off before you knew what hit you, but it looks like I got it backwards. What? Why? Uncle Rudolph, why would you, my kind uncle, do this? Forget about this. By tomorrow night, all of it won't have happened. With a quick use of the lever action, he loaded another bullet. The casing of the bullet that had pierced George's side fell heartlessly in front of him. Everyone's gonna die in a sudden, unfortunate accident. Until that moment, we'll all be a big, happy family. That's how it's gonna be. So don't worry about this. Forget it all. Of course, George didn't have a clue what George didn't have a clue what Rudolph was talking about. All he knew was that Rudolph wanted to kill him, and he showed no trace of hesitation. His image of Rudolph as the ideal, cool, joke-loving adult didn't match up with a man standing in front of him holding a gun. No, maybe this feels wrong because it fits him too well. He has that same smile, as though he's about to tell some hilarious joke. But he's pointing a gun at me. Why would that kind, funny Uncle Rudolph do this? It made him feel unimaginably sad, and tears flowed from his eyes. Uncle Rudolph, I admired you so much. Haven't I always told you, Georgekin? Make sure you don't end up as an adult like me. Now you see why. In the next world, make learning how to spot villains your first priority. I know you can do it. After all, it's just another kind of studying. He bit down the pain in his side. With the last of his strength, George threw his whole body into a roundhouse kick. At the same time, fire spat from Rudolph's gun. The bullet pierced George's chest. George spun around as he fell amidst the outpouring of blood. He moaned wordlessly, clenched, blood-stained teeth. A frigid gun was pressed harshly against his temple. So long. Go become a great man in the next world. Don't get blinded by money like me. I can't believe that my uncle would kill for money. You're so innocent. People can kill for money. The ruthless trigger forestalled any further questions. Hey, Golden Gentleman, welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. And thank you so much for the sub. I really appreciate it. It's going really well. Thank you so much for joining us. We're at a very exciting part in the visual novel right now. George's hands, which had been covering his wound, dropped lifelessly. When Rudolph saw the last glimmer of life leave him, he sighed deeply and looked tired. That was easier than I thought. Rudolph looked up into the dark, rainy sky, the raindrops hitting him full in the face, and laughed with an indescribable expression, his tongue hanging out. I thought my conscience would bug me more. Now that it's over, it was pretty easy. Rudolph laughed. This was probably just the thing Kirie had hoped for. It had taken considerable effort to kill George. He may have been merciless, but the last traces of a conscience in Rudolph's heart had probably slowed him down. However, now that he killed someone with his own hands, a turning point that few people ever reach, Rudolph had finally awakened. Now he finally understood. Oh, Golden Gentleman, thank you so much for gifting a sub to Golden Person. Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. All the golden people are here tonight. Excellent. It's just like squeezing dough out of a bunch of morons. The same old game of musical chairs. If there's a pile of money in front of you, the first one to reach it wins. The slow ones just get kicked down to hell. Haven't I driven dozens of poor fools into debt with my earlier swindles? Several of those probably ended up bankrupt, and some of those might have hanged themselves. And I always laughed like it was none of my business. And that's all there is to it. The only difference now is that for the first time, I've dealt the final blow with my own hands. Thanks, Kirie. You're always the best at cutting away my naivety. Rudolph's evil laugh rang out. The laugh was so purely evil, it was almost soothing. Hypocritical evil that still contains some pangs of conscience is far more repulsive to behold. If a man's committed to doing great evil anyway, how much more pleasant and gallant is it when he's wholly devoted to his goal? In that sense, Rudolph's evil smile and laugh were pleasant and gallant indeed. Which means, the brutal, bloody stage of the dining hall must have been soothing as well. Thank you so much for the stretch, Lork. I really appreciate it. Good reminder for everyone to take the chance to stretch. A clang. A thud. A crack. Squish. A strange mixture of these sounds kept repeating over and over again at the same tempo. Each time a red splash landed on the tablecloth dangling nearby. Jessica-chan, can you hear me? Kirie asked this with the sort of smile any aunt might make to her niece. However, Jessica didn't answer. There was nothing particularly surprising about this. After all, by now, her nose had been broken, her eyes had been smashed, her teeth had been knocked out. And not only her nose, but her entire face was now hardly recognizable as a face. Just a lump of bloody flesh. Kirie finally stopped her task of repeatedly smashing Jessica's face with the stock of her gun. Still sitting on top of Jessica, she tossed her gun to the side, pulled a compact out of her pocket, and looked at her own face in the mirror. Hey, Golden Person, welcome, welcome. Hey, Ash, welcome back. Then finally she realized that her face was covered by speckles of fresh blood. How terrible. These clothes will have to go too. With a muffled laugh, Kirie shakily rose to her feet. Jessica wasn't moving anymore. She had been convulsing a bit until a second ago, but now she was as still as stone. Smashing a woman's face is nothing new to your aunt, okay? Sorry about that. If you hadn't resisted, I could have given you a much cleaner death. Kirie pulled the tablecloth off and used it like a towel to wipe the blood from all over her body. However, instead of taking the blood off, it just smeared it around, and did nothing to remove the stench of blood and death that covered her. When she got tired of rubbing the tablecloth against the blood, Kirie walked over to the extension line telephone in the corner of the room. Then she dialed the number for the cousin room in the guest house. Hello, it's me. It's your turn now, Badler-kun. Go to the spot in front of the chapel, please. Yes, that's right. I haven't been given any instructions from Maria-chan. Have her wait there. Yes, keep your wits about you. I'm rooting for you to be chosen as a successor, Balder-kun. With the same smile as usual and the partly wiped splashes of blood still covering her face, Kirie finished her call to Badler. When she set down the receiver, there was a small knock and Rudolph came back into the room. Hey, you look like shit. Jessica-chan has better reflexes than I gave her credit for. I didn't think she'd be able to fight back from a situation like that. It's a bit of a shame she had to end up looking like this. What a waste of a good Natsui-esque woman. How about your end? Did he give you much trouble? No problems there. Plain and simple. When Kirie heard Rudolph's instant response, she favored him with an evil smile. Yes, the man she loved was the sort who could do this if he tried without letting cheap emotions get in the way. I love you, Rudolph-san. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's hard to imagine an easier job to net you a billion yen. It's like Dad always said, in the life of every man there comes one day where he has to be willing to kill. In other words, always be determined to survive, even if you have to kill to do it. That's my favorite line of his. What's next? My rifle's hungry for blood. You've got a big job coming up. Convincing Badler-kun. Oh, that's right. That'll be a pain. Hope I don't have to end it by pulling the trigger. I've really enjoyed life as a three-person family with Ange. But if you really want Badler-kun to join in on that, give it your best. Sure. I'll make sure we don't have any complaints from him. Don't worry, I've worked out a scenario to trick him good. Good luck. Even I hope that Ange's beloved big brother doesn't get caught up in the explosion accident. I know. Then I'll head back to the chapel. Rudolph-san. What? If you can't convince Badler-kun... I know. If that happens, bang. Badler-kun is independent enough he has left the family out of protest when I married you, remember? If you can only convince him halfway and things get nasty later on, he'll prove fatal to us. I know. Believe in me. And if I decide that Badler-kun is growing suspicious, I'll kill him myself. He's not my kid, after all. Yeah, I know. So, promise me one thing, Kirie. What's that? If I could trick Badler and the three of us make it off this island. If that happens, what? Never say that Badler isn't your kid again. After all, you're his mother. Please. Sure, I promise. Kirie shrugged and answered as she loaded bullets. You go to the chapel. I'll wait until Badler-kun is left, and then clean up everything inside the guest house. Are you sure you'll be okay doing that alone? That's my line. Badler left the guest house under an umbrella. He had been called to the area in front of the chapel, just like George had been. Not even 30 minutes had passed since the time George and Jessica had been called out. Apparently this test didn't last too long. Damn geezer. First he never come out, not even for lunch, and he show up in the middle of the night with a test. I bet living as a shut-in's got a sense of day and night all backwards. Complaining all the way, Badler strolled off into the rain. Almost immediately he was swallowed up by the darkness of the rose garden, and passed out of sight. And then, Kirie could be seen coming out of the darkness of the rose garden. Her right hand held a gun, her left an umbrella. Her inner pocket contained the master key ring she'd stolen from Goda. Her right pocket had a handful of bullets. Her left held a knife she had taken from the kitchen. She was a carefully and perfectly outfitted murderer. Another bolt of lightning struck down from the swirling skies. It lit up only half of Kirie's face. Her cheek was still covered with Jessica's blood. Under the eaves, Kirie folded up her umbrella, smiled and spoke to no one. Hey everyone, I'm home. Rudolph could be seen under the eaves of the chapel. He had hidden his gun in the nearby shadows and was now smoking a cigarette. Should be easy to trick that dimwit. And if it doesn't work, that's just too bad. He glanced over at the place he had stowed his gun. The cigarette smoke began to pleasantly cloud his mind. Balor isn't a kid anymore. He's an adult who can choose his path through life as he pleases. When animals grow up, it's normal for them to form a group and go on a journey. Humans are the only ones that keep treating the young like kids, even after they get big. If I'd known it'd come to this, I never would have begged for you to come back. I regret dragging you back into the family. He puffed out those words, along with the smoke. When Balor came, he didn't intend to voice those regrets of his. Rudolph was already determined to play the part of the evil murderer who kills for money. He's still not here. What's taking him so long? At that moment, he heard the sound of someone stepping on gravel. He looked up thinking Balor had finally arrived, but the sound had come from the direction opposite of the mansion. Huh? Rudolph, how could you do that to my husband? Aniki, so you're alive? Sorry that I'm alive. Too bad, but my husband wasn't so lucky. How could you? How could you? With a face obscured by anger and tears, Ava slowly walked closer, her gun raised. Her husband had been killed right in front of her. She probably wouldn't even hesitate. Realizing that a gun, quivering with anger, was pointed right at his chest, Rudolph backed away. As he pretended to retreat, he approached the gun he had hidden in the shadows. Calm down, Aniki. Put the gun down. I never wanted that to happen. Everything happened so fast, there was nothing I could do. How can you tell such half-baked lies? As Ava had said, it had really been a half-baked, pointless thing to say. Rudolph would have said anything if he thought it would calm Ava's emotions before she pulled the trigger, which she looked capable of doing at any moment now. Then Rudolph's foot came in contact with his gun. Let's just talk this over. George-kun should be here soon. Oh, hey, George-kun, we're over here. Rudolph waved as though George was coming from behind Ava. Let Ava's attention turn in that direction. That idiot. My simple big sister has always been a sucker. Die. Gunfire. Then, a bit later, the sound of something heavier than rain drip-dropping onto the cobblestone. Ugh. Ugh. Rudolph, I've always been able to see through your tricks. The bullet Ava fired went straight into Rudolph's chest. The bullet Rudolph fired at Ava missed, landing near her feet. Guess I was right. This gun does shoot low. He dropped the gun into a puddle with a splash, staggered backwards and leaned against the wall of the chapel. No, that's not it. All good westerns end with the bad guy's bullet missing. As Ava dashed up to him, kicked away the gun that had fallen into a puddle and grabbed Rudolph by the collar. What about George? Where is he? I won't let you kill him. Sorry, Aniki. Already got him. Liar! Did it in the bushes over there. Go take a look. You'll see soon. Rudolph, you... Ava, who claimed to know all of her little brother's tricks, also knew that Rudolph's final words, as his consciousness began to fade thanks to the bullet wound, were not a lie. How could you? George! George! An empty shell casing bounced off from the cobblestone. The furious gun barrel was pressed against Rudolph's forehead. Go ahead and shoot. I doubt that'll bring you much peace, though. Bolts of lightning turned everything white. However, the wall of the chapel was stained blood red. A red splash like a crushed tomato came out from the back of Rudolph's head and covered the wall. Then, leaving a red trail behind him, Rudolph sagged downwards, sat on the ground, and fell over. George! 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 Ava dashed over towards the bushes. She found George's corpse almost immediately, screamed and broke down sobbing. Rudolph's bloody corpse was exposed to the rain that ran down off the eaves. His eyes were still wide open. A fist-sized, flesh-covered hole was open in the back of his head, and his insides were exposed to the open air. Inside was a mixed jelly of flesh, brains, and spinal fluid. That goop, which looked like someone had mixed it up with a spoon, dripped from his eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and the hole in his head. Dad! Dad! Ange clutched at her head, sobbing and moaning. Her father had dirtied his hands with murder over money, and on top of that he had faced such a cruel end, and Ange had been forced to see his corpse. It was hard to imagine a more painful experience for a daughter to go through. I'm totally fed up with this. It's completely meaningless. Bernkastel-san, I know you're here somewhere. Please make this game stop. There's no point to it. As if in answer to that yell, a black shadow appeared a few seats in front of them. Or perhaps she was sitting there the whole time. Maybe we just couldn't see her until we were aware of it. It was, without a doubt, the back of Bernkastel's head. Bernkastel-san. Pipe down back there. Can't you watch the show quietly? The witch turned around with bored eyes, as though the two people yelling were the strange ones. Please stop this! We realize that this is the sealed Catbox world of October 4th and 5th. The games are like messages, or maybe more like a roundabout love letter. A single message can be conveyed over several games. But now we understand. We know that endless tales can seep out of the sealed 2-day Catbox. And beyond that, I even know the culprit and the motive. That has already been revealed, and it doesn't even have anything to do with this game. We both know the answer, that this is a Catbox tale. So there shouldn't be any need for any further games. So if this is supposed to be a game between you and us, then we already know the answer. The game should be over. Just shut up already. Didn't you hear Burn tell you to be quiet? Another shadow appeared in the next seat over, turned around and scolded the pair. There is a point. If you just watch, you'll see. Are you the game master? Not at all. Then who is? Could it be Claire? If you watch, you'll see. Not much longer now. The tragedy has already reached its climax. Who will survive, I wonder? Bernkastel isn't the game master? Then who is? Could Claire have created this cruel tale? Or are there even more witches playing around with this Catbox? The guest house was wrapped in silence. There were no sounds, no trace of anyone's presence, no breathing from anyone alive. There wasn't anything to be heard anymore. If anything could be heard, it was the sound of the murderer's feet stepping across the floor. Kyrie slowly passed through the lounge. In her right hand was a gun. In her left hand was a knife. The knife was stained with blood, and some was still dripping from the tip, leaving behind red tracks like a demon's footprints. Her hands were filled with tools of murder, so she wasn't capable of doing anything but murder. In that sense, at that moment, she was clearly and purely a murderer. The murderer went to the entrance hall, and then only after reaching the front door looked down to see the two blood-stained hands of a killer. Those hands gripped the tools of death that had performed a cruel massacre. Then at last the murderer realized that it wouldn't even be possible to open the door like this, and tossed aside the knife. Then the murderer reached up to the door, turned around calmly, and spoke. Sorry, everyone, but don't worry. A few days later, the newspapers will be talking about an unfortunate accident. And I'm sure the news shows, the papers, and the rumor mongers everywhere will be sure that you spent your time in happy ignorance until the instant of the accident. In other words, you'll all have had a good time until midnight, on October 5th. She said the one who would stay in that bloody guest house read. Or so said the one who would stay in the bloody guest house read. At this hour, the cousins are all staying up late and playing around. And the servants who had to get up early are all snoring. The ones on the late shift are probably filling in the log or taking a break about now. That's how it is. From where I am now, I can hear laughter coming from the cousin room. Humans outside the cat box would probably never understand what Kiri was saying. Only she, shut inside the cat box of the explosion accident, could know what it really meant. Outside, the rain poured down heavily. Kiri almost picked up an umbrella, but then stopped suddenly as she thought of something. Then she started walking out into the rain, not caring at all whether she got wet or not. Did the murderer not want an umbrella to get in the way of her gun? Or was she hoping the rain could act as a shower to get the blood off her? Kyrie stopped walking, as though something unexpected had caught her attention. However, this time, it was no whim of hers. How could you kill my husband? Oh, Eva-ne-san. That's surprising. How could I have missed you from that distance? I'm just as surprised. I didn't think I'd survive. You came here from the underground stairway behind the chapel, right? In that case... That's right. I bumped into Rudolph in front of the chapel. And how is he doing? Oh, just wonderful. We managed to have a friendly sibling chat for the first time in a while. I see. He's such a show-off, but so unreliable in a tight spot. Looks like he can't do anything without me after all. After the short exchange of words, Kiri already knew that Rudolph had been killed. However, no trace of urgency or panic rose to her face. She just closed her eyes with her usual unconcerned expression, and when she opened them again, she regained her composed smile. Thank you. I'm grateful. This way I really can have everything to myself. What's that blood on your clothes? You just came out of the guest house, didn't you? Don't tell me. Yes, that's right. I'm right in the middle of a murder case at the moment. You killed them? All of them? Even Maria-chan? There was no need to let them live until morning. When morning came, there would be an uproar. That could be a pain. They might have used a radio to contact someone off the island and gotten help. So this was clearly the optimal move to take. If you spin the chessboard around and look at it that way, right? Hey, Trey Fortuna! Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for coming by. Good to see you. Monster! I can't believe you could be so blinded by greed that you commit murder. You weren't doing so bad yourself. That was an accident! I didn't mean to kill them. Unlike you. No. Just like me. If that gun hadn't gone off, you would have kept on arguing and jumping at each other. Then the rest of you would have eventually reached the same answer as me. Just a few steps slower. I'm not a murderer. Not true. You're just a murderer who didn't get a chance. You've just been saved by that accidental discharge. If it weren't for that bit of good luck, if I hadn't moved before you did, then you would have played the same role I'm playing now. That fact won't go away no matter how much you try to deny it. It's the truth of a different future. Don't try and confuse me. However, on the inside, Ava understood. Back then, she had probably been saved by that accidental discharge by a coincidence. If the argument had continued much longer, she would have surely grown a desire to kill Kraus and the others, and might have even carried it out. She simply could not deny the existence of that demon deep within her heart. Only the theater-goers knew. They knew that she could become a killer in another world. Kyrie, who didn't have the theater-going ability, knew this fact as well. Maybe there really was something extraordinary about her after all. So for some time, Ava could only grind her teeth in silence, still pointing her gun. I don't understand. You're also a mother. You felt the pain of giving birth to your own child. How could you not know how precious the life is? How are you capable of doing all this? That's the thing about kids. You just sleep around, they get made all by themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. They say that children are bonds, right? What? Children are bonds used to tie you to your husband. She was a bond to make Rudolph-san acknowledge me, so I could take him back from that woman. But you've killed Rudolph-san now. You understand what that means, right? What do you mean? I understand. Just that right now, I'm the wife of no man, and I have no intention of being a mother. Or, just that right now, I'm a wife of no man, and I have no intention of being a mother. I am me, Kyrie. Now that Rudolph-san's dead, I'm not even in Ushimiya anymore. I live to benefit me. Right, Rudolph is dead, so maybe you aren't a wife anymore. But you still have Ange-chan, don't you? You're still a mother, aren't you? Didn't you hear what I just said about bonds? Now that Rudolph-san is gone, Ange is of no use to me. You! How can any mother say that about her own daughter? Eva Nesan, let's put a stop to this. We can be honest here. Honest? Did either of us marry because we wanted children? We didn't, right? We married because we wanted to live with the man we loved. And once you've married, you never want to let that man go for the rest of your life, correct? Children are just weapons to be used for that goal. I'd never have children for a reason like that. But people can have children just for that reason. Kyrie kept on speaking emotionlessly, ignoring the falling rain. Her relaxed smile didn't falter for an instant. Ange was just a chain I used to tie Rudolph-san to me. Or you could call her a chess piece, someone to play the role of the kid in our family drama. To me, Ange was nothing more than a piece necessary so I could act the part of the good mother in front of Rudolph-san. You! Could you say that to Ange-chan's face? That would be just a bit too sad, so I won't say it to her directly. I plan to write her a letter asking her to forgive her bad mother, then vanish from her life. You've seen what Rosa-san and Maria-chan are like, right? Now that Rudolph-san's gone, Ange is just a chain tying me down. I'll go back to being just Kyrie and enjoy the rest of my life at my leisure. A new challenge, and a new life, and maybe even a new love. And you call yourself human? You call yourself Ange-chan's mother? Who gives a damn about Ange? I've never liked that little brat. How can you... You've been released from your family drama too, haven't you? Let's sing the praises of a woman's freedom. You should thank me for having George-kun killed for you too. You monster! Two yells and the sound of gunfire thundered across the dark rose garden. Slowly, Eva fell backwards. Then she landed in a puddle, scattering countless drops of water. Across from her, Kyrie spun around as though dancing. Beautiful black rose petals scattered around her. The petals were a dark, dark red. As they sprayed from her throat, she spun around in a circle and slowly crumpled. Then she fell to the ground, sending muddy water flying. The two women had shot and fallen. However, when the thunder roared, only Eva sat back up. Eva hadn't been shot. Kirie's intensity had made her fall backwards, but the bullet had once again slipped right past her. Eva cursed her good luck. Why couldn't this luck have saved her husband or her son? Die there for Ange-chan's sake as well. You'll be killed in the explosion accident. Until the moment of your death, you worried about the daughter you left behind. Yes, I'll write that into the lid of the cat box. When Kyrie heard this, blood dripped from her grinning mouth, as she seemed to say something in response. However, her voice came out only as globs of blood from the hole in her throat, not words. Mom. Mom! It's a lie! It's all a lie! Ange, please calm down. This is just a game. That couldn't possibly be what your mother truly feels. It's just something the Game Master made Aunt Kyrie's piece say. But saying that did nothing to calm Ange's sobs. I don't blame her. Even if she knows it's just a game, she's been forced to see not only her mother's death, but also her mother announcing she was the culprit of a mass murder who didn't even love her own daughter. Anyone would sob after hearing that. Burnkastel-san, enough of this! I don't care who the Game Master is, stop this pointless game right now! When Leon yelled this, the theater suddenly went pitch black, swallowed in darkness. However, that wasn't enough to shock Leon. Leon continued to yell Burnkastel's name into the darkness, telling the witch to stop the game. Then a single beam of light shone upon the stage. There was Claire, the one who had appeared for just a second right before the cruel game began. Claire! So, you were the Game Master after all? I don't get it, why? Claire didn't answer. In fact, it looked as though she hadn't even heard. Her eyes were blank and you couldn't tell what she was looking at. In fact, she was even forgetting to blink. She looked just like a doll. Then another beam of light lit up the side of the stage. Beneath that light stood Burnkastel. At that same moment, though there appeared to be no one in the audience, a thunderous applause rang out. Burnkastel raised her right hand in response to the applause. She kept doing so until it died down. Burnkastel-san, so you were the master of this game after all? Leon, how many times did I tell you that I'm not the Game Master? Then are you saying it's Claire? That's impossible. Yep, of course it's impossible. After all, Claire died. We were just conducting her funeral. Did you forget that? Then just who is standing there? A corpse. She's not a mannequin. So of course she still has her insides. She's hiding it under a beautiful exterior, but she's actually packed full of guts. When Burnkastel raised her right hand, a light fell on it, and a black, shining scythe appeared there. It was a cold, merciless, and cruel object, like something a classic Grim Reaper might hold. What are you planning to do? When they're alive, you can enjoy watching them struggle. When they're dead, you can enjoy tearing out their guts. Tales are things you get to enjoy twice. That's what it means to be a witch of theater-going. Burnkastel pressed the blade of her Reaper's scythe against Claire's stomach, and slowly slid it across. Then along the line she traced, Claire's dress was sliced open. It was now clear the scythe she held was not a fake one for theatrical use. And it was clear just what she planned to do next that made her cruel smile so fitting. Yeah, damn theater kids are built different. Yeah, not a tea party, it's a trauma party. Yay! Ange, can you hear me? I hear you. You tear me to bits, make me read. What's next? Are you showing me the worst possible tale to hurt me even more? Is this fun for you? Yeah, I'll bet it is. I had a blast too. You think that I'd give up after that? You think I'd sit around crying any longer because of that disgusting game of yours? Both you and Leon seem to have the wrong idea. I'm not the Game Master. Oh, Luciana, welcome to the stream, and thank you so much for the stretch. This tale is not one that I created. Then that woman in the dress is the Game Master. No, she isn't. That can't be. Then who is the Game Master? Who wove this disgusting tale? You still don't understand. What don't we understand? Ange, you gambled everything on a faint chance of a miracle, throwing yourself forward. I invited you to October 4th and 5th of 1986 out of respect for your courage. What was your goal? To take your family back. That would be a very difficult thing, and without the blessing of a miracle, a thoroughly impossible one. You were prepared for that, weren't you? Yes, I'm prepared, and I still haven't given up on Oni-chan, Mom and Dad. Whether you give up or not is not your choice. That's your own game after all. I won't support you, and I won't even watch. I've already enjoyed my fill of games that use the piece you are, so I have no need for you any longer. Glad to hear it. And why am I here? Aren't you the one who invited me? Yes, that's right. I invited you here. To thank you for entertaining me for a while, as my piece. To thank me? Huh, so this is how witches show gratitude? Sure, this has been loads of fun, you beast. How could you make this kind of game and do that to Mom and Dad? And you made a wish hoping to take your family back. However, you also made another wish, remember? No, I don't! You want to know what happened on that day. What happened on Rokkenjima on October 4th and 5th, 1986? Didn't Ange leave on her journey with Amakusa because she longed to answer that question? That's right. So what's your point? You don't mean... Leon realized what Burn Castell was getting at. Realized it was unable to say anymore. The Game Master is neither Burn Castell nor Claire. Then who is it? That's the wrong question. There is no Game Master. That could only mean one thing. And you still don't understand. What? This is the truth. The insides of the cat box of October 4th and 5th, 1986. Afterwards, Ava survived the explosion by escaping to Kuadorian. And since she never spoke of the inside of the cat box, no matter how much you want to know, the truth was shut within the cat box for all eternity. What are you saying? Only Ava returned alive. Even though the police claimed it was an accident, the public didn't believe it. Thanks for summoning Kirby, Lord. Then she took over her husband's company, and the harder she worked to make it more and more successful, the more enemies she had. A public image of her as a great queen of conspiracy grew stronger and stronger. I'm sure she wanted to tell people about the truth. That truth that no one would ever believe without proof. Bit by bit, Ava's heart began to snap. You rejected Ava, so she rejected you in turn. The relationship between the last two members of your family was strained to the limit. Each time she compared you with her beloved son, she grew more and more twisted and broken. Then a strange message bottle was picked up and became a topic of conversation. It contained a bizarre story, one that told of a mysterious serial murder connected to Rokkenjima's gold. Everyone rejected the explosion accident theory and started to think up conspiracy theories. Some of those theories named Ava as the culprit, which tormented her even more. However, Ava used even that to build up the cat box, and until the moment of her death, she protected it. She protected the lock that held the cat box shut. So no human would ever reach the truth inside the cat box, not unless those witches who crossed the sea of fragments opened the lock. This is the truth. You're lying. You're lying! If this really is the truth, you should be able to say so in red. There's no way you can. Of course there isn't. Ange, calm down. Ange writhed with such strength that the chains in her arms and legs looked like they might snap. All over her body, a red gooey liquid started to seep out. It was as though cracks had opened up all over her, and blood was leaking out of all of them. What's that? You want me to announce it clearly with the red truth? Then I'll say it just for you. That this is all true. No! And just yell covered up Burns' red truth. Stupid kid. If only you hadn't made me say that, you could have shut up inside the cat box. But you just had to ask, right? I knew you would, of course. And I so wanted to see you scream like that. A lovely expression like that should keep me laughing for about 100 years. Go back to being scrap meat. Mom, Dad! It's a lie, right? Lies! Lies! Ugh! Ange! Ange! As Ange held her head and screamed, the blood dripping from her finally grew so thick it started scattering all over the place. Then bit by bit her body began to melt, no, to fall apart. Then bits of her began to pile up on the chair until she was nothing but a pile of guts and scraps. Is the truth really that sacred? How absurd. How foolish. Why can't humans control their own truth? They stupidly search for the truth like that's all that matters, and when they finally find it and can't stand up, they turn themselves into scrap meat. Hey, are you watching? Claire? You want to hide this truth too, didn't you? For fun, you wrote several catbox tales, and planned to seal them in message bottles like the end of a mystery novel you loved. Then you threw them into the sea, to save those who would suffer if they knew the truth. You sealed everything in a cat box, and Ava provided the lock. And I've sliced that box open for you. All that effort you spent to hide it has gone to waste. I've exposed all the truth you want to hide with your death. Is that what you've been after? You did all of this just to mock Claire's death, and then you showed this to Ange to make her suffer? You really were an evil witch after all. I've been a witch the whole time. A traveler whose only goal is to escape boredom. Care for it and love it while it's alive, then eat the guts when it's dead. That's how witches live. I cannot forgive you for what you've done. You've hurt Ange and humiliated Claire, the person I would become in another world. I won't forgive you. Leon, you're still Claire's hope, even after her death. Huh? From the moment Claire got thrown off the cliff, her fate was already sealed. I'm sure she felt a little bit of salvation to know that another her lives in happiness in another world. That's right. I'm her salvation, so I must live life to the fullest for the both of us. Leon, let me show you just a bit more of this tale of the truth. I'm not interested. No, it'll be very interesting. After the duel between Ava and Kyrie, the guest house is wrapped in silence. Let me invite you to the parlor at that point in time. The parlor? The one in the mansion? Bernkastel snapped her fingers and the scene of the mansion's parlor unfolded before them. In the cruel tale they had just been shown, the parlor hadn't been particularly important. Jessica had been summoned to the parlor, but then she was immediately led to the dining hall and killed there. So there hadn't been anything to see in the parlor. And in fact, there was nothing to see in the parlor now appearing before Leon. Just what's supposed to be here? As you can see, there's nothing here. But watch. I'm about to show you something interesting. If you call it interesting, that's a sure sign it isn't. Go on, take a look. It's right there. Right in that corner. Bernkastel was pointing at nothing more than a corner of the room. There was nothing there. She had told Leon to look there, so the latter was expecting something terrible to be there. But there really was nothing there at all. Huh? That's right, there's nothing there. At least, not in this world. But what if we peek into the next fragment over? Huh? On the white, blank wall, bit by bit, a splash of blood seeped into view. Then right there, a corpse appeared. But that couldn't be. This is... me. It was Leon, lying dead against the wall. Ushimiya Leon's corpse lay there exposed. What's going on? Why am I here? This is supposed to be Claire's world, not mine. Claire and I can't exist at the same time, right? Yes, that's right. That's because I just switched worlds. Switched fragments. Switch to your world, that is. I don't understand. It's very simple. They both end the same way. I don't get it. Why should I be dead here? In your world, on October 4th, 1986, Beatrice's funeral was held just before the family conference. Yes, I know that. And for me, that happened today, a short while ago. I wonder what will happen between that time and late that night. Nothing at all. The cousins will all play together and the whole family will have dinner together. Then comes the family conference after the night falls. You were going to succeed the headship when you turned 20, right? Was the entire family satisfied with that, I wonder? I don't know if they were satisfied, but the decision had been made. The head made it himself. Looks like even you don't believe they were satisfied. That's it right there. Kinzo adored you more than anything, so he tried to make an exception and have you succeed the headship directly. Of course, his children would have been happy with that. The siblings objected to having Leon succeed the headship. Even Kraus joined in, saying that Leon was still too young. Then on the night of the family conference, Kinzo tried proposing a difficult riddle. Could it be? That's right, the riddle, the epitaph. As you can tell by the mechanism set into the chapel, Kinzo thought up the epitaph trick near the beginning, when the mansion of Rokenjima was being built. He had the romantic idea of someday using it as a test to select a successor. Kinzo decided to present that riddle at the family conference. Did he plan to give the position of successor to the person who solved it? Or did he promise to reconsider Leon's position as a successor if it was solved? Either way, Kinzo was confident. He was confident that no one would be able to solve this tough riddle, which he had created himself. After that, everything happened exactly like the truth you just saw. The siblings solved it right away, and there was a quarrel over the pile of gold. Then Kyrie and Rudolph decided to prevent any chance of the crime being discovered the next morning, and an outcry being raised by committing murder late that night. They used the phone to call the kids out from the cousin room in one by one, then killed them. As the first of the cousins, you were the first to be called out. Then Kyrie shot you dead right here in the parlor. No, that's not quite right. You're the Ushimiya Leon from the early evening on October 4th, 1986. So I'll say it this way. Tonight, Kyrie will shoot you dead in the parlor. That's insane. That's right. Probability. Just like Leon can be born from Claire thanks to a rare miracle, Aunt Kyrie only commits murder with a tiny probability, close to 0. That must be it. Aren't you the witch who specializes in finding extremely improbable worlds? That is correct. I had to find one fragment out of 2,578,917 in order to discover the miracle that is you. However, it was very, very easy to find this result for your world. After all, probability isn't a factor. I'm a witch who can find any miracle, no matter how unlikely it is. But I can't find things that don't exist. If the Witch of Certainty really guarantees that something is certain, even I can't win against her. But then I'm... With a 2,578,916 out of 2,578,917 probability, you live in the world where you're Claire, get toyed with by an inescapable fate, and reach a tragic end. And with a 1 out of 2,578,917 probability, you live as Ushimiya Leon, and are killed by Kyrie tonight. In other words, your fate, no, the fate the two of you share, traps you in an inescapable dead end, a hell of fate, with a 2,578,917 out of 2,578,917 probability. To put it another way, it's a certain fate, with absolutely no chance for a miracle. Sucks for you, Claire, or should I say, Beatrice. Just when a bright light seemed to turn the world white, the scene suddenly changed back to the theater. On the stage, Bernkastel's Reaper scythe slid across Claire's stomach as the latter stood absolutely still. A red line was drawn across the white skin, exposed now the dress had been cut, and black blood began to seep out. Beatrice, trapped in that inescapable certainty, locked away pair of days, you became a witch who can give birth to endless possibilities within that 2-day cat box. In exchange, it was absolutely certain you would not be saved or rewarded. However, you had a dream. You dreamed of Ushimiya Leon. You consoled yourself with the thought of a miracle world, where you could have lived in happiness and without ever becoming Claire. Bonus points for Kiro for saying out that number so many times. Thank you. You're welcome. I had to work hard to find Leon. Just as Bito dreamed, Leon's existence is a true miracle. And at the end of your funeral, I want to show you. To show you that, even with the miracle, you couldn't have escaped from tragedy. Through the small crack between the bars of the jail that imprisoned her, the witch called Beatrice dreamed of a world where she might have been happy. However, the space she could see through the crack in the bars was just another part of the same jail. The more I hear, the less I understand about you. Why would you do something like this? I lost a game to Beatrice, so I wanted to get back at her. Yeah, now I feel a lot better about losing that game. Hey Bito, are you watching? Can you see this? And do you remember? Remember when I promised you a miracle wouldn't occur? With certainty? So Leon, allow me to return you to your world, right before Bito's eyes. It looks like the theater-going witches are all sick and tired of those happy family get-together scenes. So I'll send you to the moment just before Kyrie shoots you. Then I'll make Bito watch that moment. Die, scum Leon. The last hope of that scum Bito. Bernkastel raised her Reaper scythe, swung it down with gusto, and plunged it deep into Claire's stomach. Did you think you'd get an easy death? But humiliating and tearing out a corpse's guts is my specialty. She took the blade out of the scythe and heartlessly, ruthlessly, brutally raised it up into the air, along a vertical line from Claire's stomach to her chest. The blade cut deeply, slicing Claire open. The red-black insides jutted out, then burst like a dam breaking, covering the world with dark red entrails. Steal the Italians' gold, you say? You coward, Ushimiya, and you call yourself a soldier of the Empire. Father, I do love and respect you, Father, but your feelings are something Why? Why did you save me? Why did you let me die? Because of that terrible injury, I've been forced to live in a body like this. I never wanted to live in a body like this. This body that isn't even capable of love. What's the point in living like that? This isn't even a human's life. It's like being furniture. That's right. I'm furniture. Furniture! Why didn't you let me die back then? Huh? When I came to, I was in the parlor of the mansion. When did I get here? I heard a sound behind me and slowly turned around. And there... Sorry. Please don't take this personally. Huh? I could see down the frigid barrel of the gun Aunt Kyrie was pointing. Then, she slowly pulled the trigger. I could feel a razor-sharp wind pass through my body, like a knife slicing through butter. Prepared for death, and hoping to see my fate until the end, I slowly opened my eyes. The world had been cut in two. Kyrie was frozen in place like a statue, still pointing her gun with a cold smile on her face. And had also been cut in half at an angle, the top part of her slowly sliding off to the side. No, that wasn't quite right. That wasn't right at all. It wasn't just Kyrie. The whole world had been sliced in half at an angle and was slowly sliding off to one side. Then immediately after fissures seemed to appear across the world, it shattered. Huh? You! When you own a cat, you tend to pick up their habits. He pointed at Bernkastel with the tip of the pitch-black sword that has sliced the world, glaring at her. What's this? Are you saying you came back here on a whim? There was no way you'd end things on a happy note. Do you really hate Beatrice so much? You think I'd let her win and get away? I have to pay her back in full for the humiliation she caused me. When I hold a grudge, a mere century isn't long enough for me to forget it. You're a gloomy person. Come on, you mustn't neglect my heart. Are you okay, Leon? Hey, what's wrong? Leon had suddenly doubled over, groaning. My chest hurts. It's... Will roughly grabbed the hand that was pressed against Leon's chest and tore it away. Blood was seeping from where Leon's hand had been. It was the place that the bullet would have been entered if Kyrie had shot Leon. Looks like Leon's body is almost ready to accept its fate. Well, thanks for calling Kirby, Lord. Leon, hang in there. Damn these chains. When Will tried to pick Leon's body up, he finally noticed the chains attached to each wrist and ankle. What's this? Are you trying to take that kid and escape? I won't let you. I'm about to let everyone watch as Leon coughs up blood, despairing at the fact there's no hope in any of the many worlds, before finally dying in agony. Leon isn't a show. Will swung his pitch-black sword to destroy the chains binding Leon. The chains and shackles shattered into little bits like glass and then vanished. You intend to get in the way of my fun. You aren't God. All you can do is sneer at fate. Leon's fate is going to be decided by Leon. You can't treat a human's fate like a toy. You've got guts saying that to the great Bernkastel, Witch of the Senate. I have no more use for you either, get it? You've shown that Beetle's fantasy is a mystery and cut it to pieces. You fulfilled your role. I would have let you be if only you just left quietly. Now that you strolled back in here, you can hardly complain if I made you my plaything. Come to me, my cute kitties. Scratch them up and tear off their skin. Peel them like grapes. When Bernkastel clapped her hands twice, countless pairs of glaring jewels appeared all around Will and Leon. They were clearly cat eyes, but the way the drool hung from their mouths looked far more terrifying than any cat. Will. I'll handle this. Trimming kitty nails is nothing new to me. The number of jewels surrounding them already reached into the thousands. Will pointed his sword in one direction after another, warding off the surrounding cats. Get a grip, Leon. You haven't been shot. Don't acknowledge that you've been... No, that you're going to be shot. Leon tried to fight an incredible tearing pain. No, it was a fight against the promised future that Bernkastel had shown. However, the stake of the future, which the Witch of Miracles had guaranteed would contain no miracle, was firm and merciless. Oh yeah, Ange is lying on the carpet as a pile of meat right now. She is gone. She died. She exploded. Bit by bit, and yet unceasingly, continued to pierce into Leon's chest. Listen up. I'm going to break through the perimeter for just a second. When I do, you need to run with all you've got. It doesn't matter where. Just make sure you get far away from this place, and keep on running no matter what happens. I'll try, to the best of my ability. If I can't do it, please forgive me. If you can't do it, enough whining. I won't forgive you. Neither will Claire. Did you forget your Claire's 1 in 2,578,917 chance? If you give up, you're betraying all the other yous in countless worlds. So don't lose heart. Keep on struggling and struggling. Don't look for a miracle. Be one. Be a miracle. You're going to reach a happy future. Don't give up. Don't complain. Just you try complaining again. This time, I'll pinch your ass. Okay. Out of context, that sounds so weird if we didn't know about the whole ass pinching thing. It's like, Will, you ruined a great moment there. How very confident you are, telling this kid to be a miracle when you stand before the Witch of Miracles. Miracles are no more than a fantasy. Grovel in this world that has been convicted as a mystery, and die horribly like a worm. The witches of theater-going are looking forward to watching it. You call that mystery? You think I'd ever accept a mystery without heart? Let the cat who wants to be made into a shamisen strike first. What a pain. Let's have all of you at once. I'm Willard H. Wright, SSVD's head inquisitor of heresy. This will be the final time I draw my sword. Trash him, kiddies. All at once, all of the cat eyes opened wide, undulating and spinning in a spiral, and then swallowed Will up. But Will and Leon weren't swallowed up. The cats that had flown in at them from all directions were now being launched away, like they were a balloon popping around the pair. Oh, not bad. I don't give a damn about your kitties. It's just a mama cat I care about. Kirostyle, Witch of Miracles. It's about time someone trimmed your claws. Another flash of the black blade has spun in the dark tornado and scattered the cats once more. Leon, realizing that this was the opening Will had planned, ran all out, still clutching at a heaving chest. Will, I'm running! Diana has a weak stomach. Make sure you only give her milk that's warm, okay? Huh? By the time Leon asked Will to repeat what he had said, he had already leapt onto the stage and was now confronting Kirostyle. It was like the climax of a show. Loud cheers erupted from the pitch-black audience seating. On either side of Claire, who lay with her insides exposed, stood Will with his pitch-black sword, and Kirostyle with a sight that could harvest miracles from fate. Kyrie and Rudolph are the culprits, and they massacred the people on the island. They called Leon out to the parlor, then shot Leon to death. Sorry, but I can't acknowledge this truth of yours as a mystery. This is all fantasy. Fantasy? You're calling it that to try and let Leon escape fate? By all means, try. Rule number 1. It is forbidden to have a crime without all the clues presented. Surely Will's black sword must have cut through Kirostyle's body. However, it had no effect, like cutting the reflection of the moon on the water. What's this? What do you mean by clues? I won't accept your mystery with Kyrie and Rudolph as the culprits. You won't find clues showing they're the culprits no matter which game you look at. Of course you won't. Even if they did exist at one point, the whole island blew up. Which means there aren't any clues. And that means this is no mystery. It's fantasy. Huh? It's impossible for an unprovable truth to become truth in the human world. In other words, even the actual truth cannot cross the boundary of a cat box. Are you trying to shut the truth inside the cat box? Is that how the mystery genre is supposed to fight? With a laugh like a howl of a wild animal, Kirostyle carelessly tossed her scythe aside. Fighting itself is a waste of time. Get over here, scum. Try and cut me all you like. I'll listen to all you've got to say. The 20 wedges will pierce every part of your heartless mystery. Here it comes. And when you realize you can't defeat me with those 20 wedges, you know what will happen next, right? Come on. I'll play with you if that's what you want. Ah! Trying to ignore an incredible pain in the chest, Leon kept on running and running without stopping. I dashed out of the theater going witches, then ran through an incomprehensible world of blackness. Before I knew it, I was running through a place that looked like a sea of stars. Maybe the bottom of the ocean with stars scattered around. If I get careless for a second, I'll probably trip. No, if I get careless, I won't be able to tell if I'm running, or just making running motions as I freefall, endlessly sinking deeper into the ocean of stars. I just kept on running, without any goal or target. I mustn't stop moving. I mustn't fall down here. If I fall, I'll crush the hope of the me's in the countless worlds. There's a happy world that the Beatrices dreamed of, and I'm their last hope, the only one who can reach that world. Even though I understand this, the truth thrust in front of me by the witch who controls miracles, who says there could be no miracle, is cruelly gouging itself into my chest. Sorry, Will. My body is already... Then Leon finally succumbed to the fierce pain and fate, and fell over. Leon's body was held roughly from behind and lifted up. Huh? Will! You're okay! No, not really. Don't you give up. Didn't I tell you I'd pinch your ass? Sorry. I'm really sorry. But on that day, in that place, I was fated to be killed. That's That's right. All humans are fated to die in the end. Does that mean their lives are meaningless? Of course not. What a person's life means, what it's worth, what it is, these things are each person things designed for themselves. No matter what sort of fate is forced upon them, don't accept it. Create your own world for yourself. Will, your left arm! Right. Must have forgotten it. It'd be a pain to go back and get it now. There were rips all over Will's body. Also, his left arm had been brutally torn off from the elbow. His clothes were in tatters and he looked like a blood-stained scarecrow. Then Leon noticed. Though this place had once felt like a sea filled with stars, both above and below them, those stars had now gathered together and were surrounding them. It was a huge, even number of stars, all glaring at the two of them. Will was holding Leon with one arm. He couldn't take his sword out. However, he didn't let go. He was determined to let Leon escape from here, to lead Leon towards the happy tale that Beatrice has dreamed of. Behind the cats, whose eyes glowed out of the empty darkness, the Queen of Cats, who permitted no miracles, appeared. Willard, put Leon down. If you do, I'll let you go. We'll file a protest with the Great Court. You can put it up for debate. Will, I won't leave you behind. I need to tell you why I quit SSVD. Come to think of it, even I don't know that. Why'd you do it? It's because I got fed up with all those damn sob story mysteries. We'll survive and reach a happy ending. I'll show her. Beatrice died in despair, thinking that they were only bad endings. I'll show her that a happy ending can exist. That's why I'll never put you down. Will? You can take the rest of my left arm, cats. I'll give you my legs too, if you want them. But I'm not letting go of Leon here. I'll take Leon away from the bad ending you represent, even if I have to crawl my way out of here. Are you okay with this, Leon? Will's planning to die protecting you. You don't want that, right? Go ahead and tell him to leave you be and save himself. Will. Yeah. Please, don't leave me here. I'll certainly survive, and so will you. That's the spirit. As he said this, Will held Leon tight. There you have it. We'll keep struggling on, Bernkastel. We won't give up on the chance of a miracle. You're saying that? When the Witch of Miracles has promised with certainty that there will be no miracles? So long, you two. Go collect the dust in the depths of oblivion, unable to even die and disappear. Come, my kitties. I won't order you to kill them. Just clean up the two pieces whose role has ended. 100 million, a trillion, 10 quadrillion cats all bared their fangs. In the starry sky of cat eyes, countless flesh-colored mouths opened, exposing countless teeth. The world was wrapped in flesh and blood and fangs. Well, what'd you think of that, guys? Speechless, huh? I didn't want to talk during that entire last section because it was so intense. Don't forget, though, we're not done yet. We still have the question mark, question mark, question mark. There is stuff I want to say, but I don't want to say it yet. I'll wait until after we do the question mark, question mark, question mark. But even then, there's still stuff I think I have to wait until the end of episode 8 to tell you. Ah! Thank you for the chaos sigh. I guess there's a couple things I can say that are not spoilery. One, the music that played during the credits there, yes, it's called The Executioner. Widely considered Bernkastel's theme, they use it as Bernkastel's theme in the fighting game as well. secondly, actually, do I want to say this now? Or do I want to save this for later? Okay, I'll say this first. I really like this tea party because it brings us back to like a scenario that didn't have too much like meta world interjections. Kind of like back in like episode 1, where it was just strictly like the plot playing out. Not too much like pausing and witches arguing and like weird stuff going on and flashbacks. It was just straight up like, here's the scene, this is what's happening, this is how everyone's dying. And we haven't really had that since episode 1. Of course, this time it's nice because it's all compacted into one tea party for us, as opposed to being stretched out over like 5 streams. So it's like a nice compact like 2.5 hour story without all the extra exposition and stuff, because we already have that. You can see more why I like Will. I mean, who doesn't like Will? He's great. And you know, again, it's like everyone in the Ushimiya family has moments where you really like them, and then moments where you really hate them. Like up until here, I was like, yeah, Kirie is the only cute, only like cool aunt who's like cool-headed, but we haven't really learned that much about her. So I was kind of waiting to learn more about Kirie. Like we learned a little bit about her when she fought with Jessica, and then it's like, oh, here you go, here's your Kirie moment. Here's the part where you're supposed to hate her, and it's like, oh, thanks, game. Thanks, game. But it was a very interesting part. I do want to comment more on the tea party, but I will save some of that stuff until the end of episode 8, because it'll make a little bit more sense once I say it in its entirety. One thing I will say that's really cool about Will, though, is that some people have pointed out, because of course, everyone's always like theory crafting on Umineko. Even after Ryukishi came out and outright stated, here's the solution, here's what I said, stop rumor crafting amongst yourselves. Because even after episode 8 came out, there was still a lot of rumor mongering and like debates and theories going around. A lot of people thought that some of the things he was saying were still like supposed to be intentionally misleading. And he was still like, after a while, he was finally, okay guys, let me spell it out for you. Stop theory crafting, here's this, right? But that doesn't stop people from still theory crafting, which I think is really cool about Umineko. Like, a lot of the things said in all the episodes, you can still ask yourself, were they true? Like, is everything Castell said true? Is everything that Kirie said true? Right? Is everything that Ava felt true? Right? The manga is more explicit, partially because, obviously, with a manga, you actually have to draw scenes out instead of just having portraits and people talking, because there's things you can do with a visual novel format that you can't really do with a manga, and vice versa. There's things you could do with a manga that you can't do in the visual novel. Like, for example, having Yasu as an unseen character in the visual novel, because we are viewing in first person for a lot of those scenes, doesn't really work in the manga. So the manga takes things a little bit differently. And some people were arguing, going like, well, the manga's a different reinterpretation of the events. And so people were arguing whether the manga was canon or not, and eventually Ryukishi had to step in and be like, okay guys, no, the manga is canon just as much as the visual novel. It's just a retelling of it. And by saying that, he kind of put a bunch of the rumors to rest. I won't say any more on that topic, because I'm going to talk about that at the end of episode 8. One thing I will point out that's kind of cool here, because I'm going to forget to talk about this later, while the scene is still fresh in my mind though, is that, like, Will here, he fights against Castell, and he starts by using Van Dyne's rule number 1 for mysteries, right? And people were actually pointing out that with a bunch of, like, subtext of the things he says and the way he goes about it, that Will was actually holding back in that fight, which I think is super cool. I mean, he was already a super cool character, but I just have to say how cool and badass that is. Like, he was fighting Castell, protecting Leon, and he was still, like, holding back. He wasn't using his full power. And you might be asking, well, why would Will not use his full power, right? Isn't that to his advantage? And so people were saying, and again, this is still, like, partial theory craft, but also partially, like, backed by the game, that Will was intentionally holding back because if he went full power, he would cut apart Leon's entire world and disprove it. And that would break Leon's heart. And so he held back to protect Leon while protecting Leon. Does that make sense? I just think that's super badass. Not to mention the whole, like, oh yeah, I just left my left arm behind. Guess I can't go back for it. We're going like he's so cool. He's so cool. On top of being a detective, man. Let's wrap this up. This part's not too long. Has it been almost a year since I started reading? Not quite. I started in like end of October last year, because it was like nearing Halloween when I started. So we're getting there. We're getting there. 2 white pieces were set on the chessboard. The countless black pieces surrounding them were now just packed together, not even placed on the squares. Bernkastel tipped the 2 white pieces over and took them off the board. Is it really okay to end it like this? Yes. Yes, as usual, your reading truly does fall comfortably on my ears, my Miko. As you wished, I've scraped out even the inner parts of the guts. Was that enough of an answer check for you? Indeed. I am quite satisfied. Using the answer you have revealed as a key, I will go back through all the tales so far, opening the closed rooms like treasure boxes one by one. It's fun finding the key, and it's even more fun to stick it to all the locks. You've done very well, my Miko. From now on, let me enjoy my thoughts alone. This has been enough. The Witch of Theater Going sat back in her rocking chair, a satisfied smile on her face as though enjoying a pleasant aftertaste. There was no need for a game board anymore. She just had to go back in her mind, through the whole set of tales to check whether her theory was right or not. It seemed to leave her pleasantly drunk, even better than the most expensive wine. Are you done with me now? You have done well, my Miko. I absolve you of your duty. I will return to my slumber. I'd like to enjoy this pleasant dream for a few more centuries. And when I grow tired of that, you will find yet another tale to keep me entertained. For those centuries which will pass in the blink of an eye, I grant you your freedom. Splendidly done, Bernkastel, my cute Miko. It's not like I care. Go ahead, dry up and die. So long for the rest of time. We call a few mere centuries for the rest of time. Featherine's consciousness slowly faded away. As the owner of the study's slumber grew deeper, the lights about the room slowly darkened. Good night forever, Aurora. You don't need this game board anymore. I'll take it. Bernkastel reached out towards Bito's game board, which lay on the table in front of Featherine's rocking chair, and tapped it twice. The game board and the pieces flew into the air, folded up and put themselves away, then landed on Bernkastel's outstretched right hand. I still haven't had the chance to do any real game mastering. I just did Bito's funeral. That and tearing out the guts. I still haven't done anything. Bernkastel's smile twisted evilly. Then the game board floated up once again, and a world unfolded itself above Bernkastel's palm. Hey, pieces of Bito's game. I'm gonna have you spin an incredibly brutal tale that I'll find incredibly entertaining. Tremble in fear of the certain fate you've been promised. By the name of Bernkastel, Witch of Miracles, and as the final game master of Bito's game, I proclaim it. Though just saying it would be boring. Maybe I should follow Bito's rules and say it in red. Are you sure? There might still be some witches with naive hopes. Ah, Lambda, so you're here. Of course, you're always wherever I am. Go on and say it. You tell those naive dreamers. Yes, I will. As the Witch of Miracles and as the final Game Master, I proclaim the start of the final game. And make you this promise. I won't give this game a happy ending. A single girl was crying in desolate, quiet chapel. She was a small girl, only 6 years old. The girl who would, for 12 years starting now, laments the fact that she wasn't on this island during October 4th and 5th, 1986. Then, a single man appeared. The man noticed the girl, walked up to her quietly, trying not to scare her, and put his arms gently around her shoulders. Oni-chan. I've been looking for you, Ange. The girl jumped into her big brother's chest and started crying again. What's wrong? Why are you so sad? Today, a kid in class bullied me. He said the people on TV were saying Mom had bad ties to bad people. So he said that Mom and Dad were the culprits, and that they probably killed everyone. I asked Aunt Ava, hoping she'd say it wasn't true, but she didn't say anything. Mom and Dad aren't bad people, right? Right? Poor kid. Everyone keeps saying whatever they like about what might have happened on that island on that day. Sit over here. Okay. When the man pointed to the floor, a cloud of gold butterflies gathered there and created a chair. The girl obediently sat on it. You know, don't you, Oni-chan? You know that Mom and Dad aren't bad people, right? Yeah, of course I know that. I know that none of them were bad people. Then tell me, what happened that day? What happened on Rokkenjima? Okay, I'll tell you. This is what happened on that day. Is it a scary story? Of course not. Is it a sad story? Not at all. Then what kind of story is it? You can decide that for yourself when you hear it. It definitely isn't a painful story. So listen up. Okay. Hello, Oni-chan. On that day, we all went to Rokkenjima. There were a lot of us. It was an important day. The day of the family conference. Where should I begin? This is the final game made just for Ange. Listen, Ange. This is what happened on Rokkenjima on that day. It isn't sad or painful at all. There we have it. Episode 7. What's the next game gonna have in store for us? Is it gonna be sad and despairing like Bern Castell said? Or is it gonna be full of hope like Badler said? Guess we're gonna have to find out. I do want to check one thing before we close off though. I'm not sure if it gets added here, but I want to double check. And here's the portrait of Leon and Will that serves as the cover for episode 7. So now that we've finished episode 7, the episode 7 tips screen is now available. And I don't know if they changed it here. Here we go. Oh, there it is. See at the bottom, there's a change button for Beatrice. This is new. There's the profile for Beatrice Castiglione. And I thought Kinzo had the button to switch him to young Kinzo here, but maybe that's only in certain versions of the game, because I know it exists. Yeah. Interesting chapter. We've kind of solved most of the core mysteries, and Will, like, solved all the murder rooms in the questions arc, although it was indirect. But there's still stuff to discover, which is so cool. Like, this story is so multi-layered that there's still things to discover. And again, that's why people that are into Umineko still talk about it to this day and argue over theories about different things about the characters. Everyone's so multi-dimensional. And that's what really makes it special, I think. Yes, it's a very, very long visual novel, which is one of its, you know, both a good thing and a bad thing. But I think it's worth sharing. It's very interesting. Oh, yeah, that was intense. Voicing that tea party was fun, though. It's nice going back to actually voicing, like, actual scenes of, like, intensity and not just stopping every couple seconds to like, the large exposition and the explanations. It's kind of nice, it's kind of nice. So, the stream schedule for the upcoming week is a little bit different. I think I'm going to be streaming pretty much every day except for Tuesday, but I haven't decided which games I'm going to be streaming. And I'll tell you guys, since you guys are here, the reason why I don't know what I'm streaming this week is because I'm waiting for a package from my mailman to come, and I don't know what day it's going to come, and that's going to affect what I'm going to play this week and on which day. So until my mailman comes with the package, I'm going to play some short games in the meantime to fill in space and see. Psst. It's a PlayStation 5! I finally bought one! I'm glad you guys like my voice acting too. I know I'm not like a great voice actor, but it's fun to try to do different voices and try to put some emotion behind it. Ooh. I feel warm from all the talking and the emotions and everything. Oh my gosh, Kieran went back to streaming Baldur's Gate. I can't believe this. He streamed yesterday for like 12 hours playing Baldur's Gate. Oh, thanks, Haru. He streamed yesterday for like 12 hours playing Baldur's Gate, and then today he wanted to stream Baldur's Gate but didn't. He stuck to his schedule and streamed Ace Attorney, and then stopped his stream in the afternoon. And now he's back streaming Baldur's Gate. Good for him. Let's drop in on my best friend Kieran. Dragonstorm, thank you so much for following me as well. I really appreciate it. Can you guys... Oh, you guys want to guess what game I'm going to play when I get my PS5? Yeah, go ahead. There's pretty much only like one candidate, I think, that's going to come to mind anyways. Oh yeah, also, for those of you new here, if you're curious, I do have my YouTube channel with all sorts of VODs of games I've played before. I've played a lot of RPG games, a lot of mystery games, a lot of visual novel games. Right now, I think we're over 60 games now on the channel, so if you're ever, you know, bored and want something to watch, feel free to check that out. Or check my Twitter for some updates. Assuming that Twitter's still sticking around. I'll keep using it until I really can't anymore. Yep, I'm going to play Final Fantasy 16. I'm so excited. Honestly, the only PS5 games I'm interested in right now is Final Fantasy 16, Spider-Man 2, which doesn't come out until October, and I guess I should play Final Fantasy 7 Remake Interlude because I didn't play Interlude, and Interlude is only on Steam and PS5 and not on PS4, so... Good thing it's backwards compatible, too. That means I don't have to keep swapping out my consoles all the time. Okay, let's, actually, I should click on the stream. Alright, thank you again for joining me, everyone. I really, really appreciate it. Love you all. You're the best froggy friends a guy could ask for. Stick around. We're rating Kieran, who's playing Baldur's Gate 3. He's my best friend, also an amazing streamer, and also a professional voice actor. And he also sings. Please go check him out. I'll see you guys tomorrow for, I don't know, whatever I'm playing. I'll play something. Bye, guys. Take care.